She was fast. Sorry, I forgot to open the napkin. It's almost.
Here, look, Grinch.
Okay.
Oh, I love the Grinch.
Recording in progress.
Our first item, sorry, confused everybody. So this is a regularly scheduled meeting of the, what's the meeting? Public Facilities Committee. And present at the beginning of the meeting, we have Councilor Danberg from Ward 6, Councilor Kelly from Ward 3, Councilor Getz from Ward 5, Councilor Leary from Ward 1, Vice Chair, and myself, Susan Albright from Ward 2. And I think no other members of the committee I see online, but we have in the room Councilor Lovovitz from Ward 6, and any other councils here? No, I don't think so. Okay, and Councilor Kalis will come along later. So now the first item. Oh, by the way, so this is our last meeting, so we have things to eat. And I hope others in the room will enjoy them as well. There's a plate of gluten-free Oreos. Who knew that they made them? I didn't know. Yeah, so there's all kinds of things to munch on. Okay, 358-25, requesting that the requesting, where's the first part? Is this the mayor requesting?
It is, yeah.
That's an odd way to write that. The mayor is requesting the appropriation of $2,304,983.75
That is true.
for phase 2 of the pump station rehabilitation project. Or on the mayor requesting the appropriation. I just read that. From account number 6100-3599 sewer fund surplus available for appropriation to fund phase 2 of the pump station rehabilitation CIP project. And with us to talk about this is Commissioner Sullivan.
Would you like me to join you at the table?
Yes, please.
Good evening, councilors. I'm requesting your support for an appropriation of $2,304,982.75 to fund phase 2 of the sanitation rehabilitation capital improvement program construction. This phase includes both construction and construction oversight for essential upgrades at 5 of Newton's pump stations. These stations are critical components of our waste and stormwater systems. Many contain ancient infrastructure, some original or several decades old, and require rehabilitation to maintain reliability, reduce operational risk, and ensure long-term system performance. Phase 2 construction work covers 5 locations across the city. The Quinnipiac Road Pump Station, where we will complete significant structural and architectural repairs, roof replacement, brick and step repairs, drainage improvements, and site work. Elliott Street Pump Station, which requires replacement of suction and discharge valves, check valves and fencing. Edgewater Park Pump Station, which requires pumps, motors, isolation valves, check valves, and wiring, which will be replaced along with installation of a permanent bypass connection. The Manic Road Pump Station needs pump replacement and interior building repairs, and the Flow Meadow Pump Station, we need to install a redundant second pump, replace piping, and upgrade electrical and controls. These improvements strengthen the reliability of our system, reduce the risk of emergency failures, and extend the useful life of the infrastructure. This funding request also includes construction oversight by Brown and Caldwell. Their scope covers project administration, submittal and RFI review, field visits, change management, payment review, record drawings, and oversight of equipment startup and commissioning throughout the anticipated 15-month construction period. This quality control is essential to ensuring the work is completed properly and to spec. The funding breakdown is as follows: $1,799,093.75 for construction, $215,890 for the contingency, and $290,000 for construction oversight. This project is a key part of our capital improvement plan and our long-term strategy to modernize Newton's pump station network, prevent costly emergency repairs, and maintain a high level of service for our residents. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Anybody with questions? Councilor?
Yeah. Just a quick one. So how much of it is in-house workers and how much of it's contracted out?
It's going to be contracted out. That is actually the bid.
Mhm.
Construction bid was a $2,799,000.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Is this a scheduled, long-term improvement? I thought it was.
It is part of the original assessment that was done by Brown and Caldwell for all of our pump station. This is our phased approach to improving all of the pump
Right.
stations. throughout
So
the
this is a
city.
plan. that we're
Yes,
doing-
this is
yeah.
planned. It's a phased project over a number of years. I'd say it's probably about a 10-year project.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think it's really important to do. So I'm ready.
I concur, right? Okay,
Any question?
yeah, no question, I concur, and, since, the chairman is Ward 2, is this Ward, this
It's
is
a multiple word.
many wards,
Yes.
I'm happy to, move approval on it.
Okay,
Thank you, Council.
Councilor Bamberg has moved approval. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Okay, I'm gonna do that.
Thank you.
We have five, yeah. Thank you very much. Okay, the next item is here. This is 103-24, Council Albright, this is the one, Council Albright on behalf of Public Utility Committee requesting an update on planning and construction of the Bullis Pond Dam, and the other one is 418-24. Where the mayor requesting a discussion of the Bullis Pond Dam rehabilitation project and the preferred safety design. So, a couple of things to be said about this. First thing that needs to be said is that this is a discussion item, which all of us seem to have forgotten over the course of the last 2 years. So just as we did with the Newton Highlands project, we voted a sense of the committee and then we passed the sense of committee onto the council and the council passed it. So we will only be doing a sense of the committee tonight. And I actually have a draft to work from, which at the appropriate time, I will share it with everybody. So it's not like an up or down vote. This was just the mayor asking us, how do we feel about these options? So I just want to make sure that everybody understands that it's not an up or down vote.
Can I add one second?
Yes,
It's important to note that we will be back for funding,
yes,
obviously.
of course.
So there will be additional opportunities to discuss.
Can I just say a quick comment about
Yeah.
that? I'm glad you clarified that for us because it reminds me from a land use perspective that I'm more used to, like a consistency building.
Yeah,
Getting a
definitely.
sense of the committee, it's not an actual vote,
Right.
just getting our opinion and it goes back to
That's right.
a different decision maker.
Right. Yes,
So is this about picking a specific project? Or is it just, yes, we think we should?
why don't you
move
wait
ahead?
and see what we decide?
Okay, okay.
It would be good to have a sense of the direction of the committee.
Yeah.
That was the purpose, to
Mhm.
make sure that we weren't going in a direction that wasn't supported.
Yeah. So when we met the last time, we had some specific questions that we wanted asked and answered. The first one was with respect to the thing that Councilor Mickley speaks about it often, is we shouldn't do anything with the dam until we can figure out how to stop the overtopping. And so, is Mr. Nickerson prepared to talk about that?
Mr. Nickerson and our city engineer,
Okay.
Alfredo Vargas, will both be presenting this evening. And the Mr. Nickerson should kick it off.
Okay, so Ms. Nickerson, I'm gonna ask you later, after we finish talking about these first couple of things, to do a summary of the three options for us again, but just now leave that aside and just talk about the overtopping issue. Is that possible?
Yes.
Okay,
Did you want?
do you want to come and join us? And, Mr. Vargas, do you want to come and join us?
Sure.
Sit right here. It's beginning to feel right just to have you at the table with us.
I think the question that I think I had heard was, what would it take to do something to improve the downstream, inundation, during an overtopping event? So it wasn't, I'm not sure that we've addressed stopping the overtopping, but it was, what would it take to contain the water that does overtop, so we don't have inundation zones?
That was
Yes.
definitely the question, not the
Okay.
way I.
That's the one I'm prepared to answer.
That was the right one.
Okay, so if we go through a few slides, so what we did was we spent some time to look at what are the downstream culverts, what is the system that the city currently has? And what size would we have to make those improvements to those culverts to try to collect the water and convey it down? We haven't done a really detailed alternatives study, we haven't done any kind of, I would consider it a conceptual design. We didn't look at the alignment, we didn't look at different elevations we could put things at, we didn't look at the types of constructions or how we might minimize impacts to surrounding properties. It was really, here's what you have, what size would we need to be able to convey the water? And also, we only took this to the limits of the city of Newton, and we know it connects into Watertown, and that's, we ignored that issue, that will be addressed later. So I just want to set the table with that. We've kind of looked at what we could control. So next slide, if you could. So this shows, the current existing conditions as we overtop the dam. We certainly get a fair amount of backup on the Walnut Street culvert, and then it flows down to the Hull Street culvert, where go to the next slide. Shows a little bit more of the impacts of where we have a couple of, there's really three long existing culverts that really aren't adequately sized to convey that much water. So that's why you see those blue inundation zones kind of around them. So those were the ones we really targeted looking at, the bigger impacts, what we could do to those culverts. We go to the next slide, and maybe if I go back to one. So you see those are like culvert 1 is a 10-foot diameter, culvert 2 is another 10-foot diameter, culvert 3 is a 16-foot diameter.
Just a quick correction, Jim, and it's not that relevant, but it's a rectangular shape.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Right. So if you go to the next slide, we did some iterations with our model to kind of see what size we'd have to make those to be able to capture that water. We held the culvert, at Walnut Street constant, so we still see a little bit of backup around there. That would be something else we could consider whether or not we needed to address that culvert. But when we get down really to Hull Street and then taking that all the way down through the end of the city limits, we end up having to put like a 20-foot diameter by 12-foot diameter culvert in to be able to contain that water. So you can see really we containerized it, really that magenta line that runs down. It's about 10,000 feet, so 2 miles worth of culvert. So it's really, in some cases, when we had a 10 foot by 4 foot, now we're at a 20 foot by 12 foot. I have a culvert, or if I say diameter, but the size of the culvert, so 20 foot wide, 12 foot tall, pretty big.
So it is 10 now, and you'd have to put a 20-foot culvert for the 2 miles.
Correct.
Okay.
Drive a car.
Yeah.
Where's the Mass Pike fit into that picture?
I think we're gonna get to that.
Oh, okay.
Go to the next slide, I think if you could, so you can see we've pretty much containerized most of that overflow water. And so this shows us getting it all the way down to Charles River here in this. But we do, have a lot of properties we've got to cross. There's a lot of infrastructure along this 2 mile alignment that would need to be considered how it gets impacted, including lots of private residences, elementary schools, the highway, the interstate,
High school.
the high school. So,
How deep is the culvert?
well, right now, so it's a 20 foot by 12 foot, it would be buried, similar to what the current one is buried, but maybe it would have to be a little deeper. So like I said,
How deep is the current one?
Would have to be.
we don't recall off the top of my
You
head.
have to be 10 feet.
Probably changes elevation throughout the.
Yeah, it actually
Parts of it
daylights in
gone.
one area and then picks back up to another spot. So again, I didn't really work through all the elevations. It was really just how do we get that amount of water
Yeah.
in a pipe? What size pipe would it have to be?
Can I ask a question? You're talking about 2 miles of a 20 foot times 12 foot culvert?
Yes.
How much is that gonna cost?
Yeah, but we haven't got there yet.
Yeah.
But
And how does
Millions
And they, 80 private properties.
80 private properties.
We have to go under the pike and under the railway. And through the high school. tennis
Is that
courts
practical?
and Through the gym.
We're just talking about this now? This is the
This-
solution?
This was
Well,
the
this is-
question.
this is-
Solution to
Yeah.
100-year
Maybe.
plan,
Yeah,
which, as I've been reading, most municipalities are not solving for the 100-year storm.
not for their stormwater.
No.
No,
I can't imagine how we can afford that.
And then what happens if Watertown doesn't continue its quarter or a half a mile, whatever it is, until the Charles River? What happens if they don't do that?
Then the system would just back. up.
surcharge.
yeah.
Blockage.
It's surcharges there.
How much of the 2.5 miles goes through a town that we do not control, Watertown?
No, we only looked at,
That's New Paltz,
Just new.
this is just
just
in
new.
But it is about half a mile of
Watertown.
additional culvert in Watertown, so we would need to work with Watertown.
Yeah.
So that simultaneously, they do the same type of work.
So you can't have a 20-foot pipe going into a 10-foot pipe that, yeah.
It's a great thing.
So this is what it would take to stop the flooding.
And
Is
those
that- is that the question that we're answering?
That's what it would take to stop the flow, to collect all the flow that we were saying passes over and that overtopping event and not allow any of it onto the street. So, there's a lot that can be done to refine this. Like I said, this is conceptually to get us into the ballpark for the conversation, because it is a significant undertaking.
Do you have, in a bigger than a bread box way, is it like 5 million, 50 million, 75 million?
million, I would think.
Hundreds of millions?
Yes, I just seems unfathomable to even think about.
Yeah.
Taking on that
property
kind of
is, there's so many different variables, it's really hard to refine cost.
Yeah,
At
I don't
this
see
high
how this
level.
can be done.
At this level, it's very difficult, but you have to, there's a lot that will go in, the type of construction will drive it. Does it have to be a tunnel? Does it have to be, can it be, the alignment, could we realign things so it goes down city streets?
Do we need to remove and relocate utilities? There's a number of
Of
different.
course, if it
factors.
went down the streets, then we'd have to move the
Do we
utility,
have the space in the street? to
gas,
even-
electric.
Yeah,
The question was asked, and this is the answer.
it's the answer,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
So but you are, to speak for a moment about the reality, you do have a contract with a stormwater company that's doing something.
They're doing assessment of our entire infrastructure for stormwater. They will be giving us a prioritized plan with projects ranked
Okay,
and a funding.
okay.
Do you have a
Schedule.
timeline for that?
They, I believe by the end of the year, end of 2026.
So another year.
We just awarded the contract and signed it. It was a grant. We had to wait till we got the funding. But that is how we're going forward, and it is important to know that this is only one area. If we get 100-year storm, we're going to have flooding elsewhere as well.
There are other flood prone zones.
Yes.
So this is just one. of
This
at
is
least
just one
three
area.
that I.
What about
that are
Corinne?
tops.
Okay, so
Countryside.
that was one
Countryside.
of the questions that we asked of the two. The other one, the other one was, we asked if the Bullows Pond Association would send us in writing what questions were unanswered and what questions were answered inadequately, I guess, and what was their preferred option. And you saw the answer, the letter that we got back from Laura Student, and I assume, Ms. Greaser's here, but she, agreed with this letter that they're not going to give us their plan in writing. They are going to leave this all into the hands of the new mayor, who would come up with, in their words, will come up with a new plan that will fix everything. So we don't have an answer for that element of the last meeting.
No, the one question was, were the concerns you have asked about DPW about the dam that have either been partially answered or not answered at all? And I know Ms. Greaser had mentioned that more than once, so I was surprised that there was no answer to that. Are you asking me to speak?
Well, we're not gonna start on that again. We've been down that road. We got an answer that there's gonna be nothing in writing. It's not necessary. So those are the two things that we left for homework for this meeting. I think that what we need to do next is to ask Mr. Nickerson to summarize the three options that we were presented with, so that we can refresh our memories about what were the pros and cons of each, what did each entail?
I think if you have a next slide, I'm trying to remember what I said on. There's another slide, we've sort of hit this one before, which is really, the city's under the order of conditions or the order from the dam safety or the MDS of Mass DCR to make improvements to the dam. We already talked about this, really the primary issue that they've identified as has been identified as the primary spillway isn't adequate. Dam has a risk of overtopping for the design event, as well as the wood vegetation. Really main drivers that the cited. Next slide. The three options that we've narrowed down to what we thought we could work with to help improve the dam would be really allowing it to overtop, which would then protect the dam, from the overtop causing a breach and losing control of the reservoir. The three options that all sort of fit into that category are: one was the downstream sheet pile wall, which would be driven through the embankment into the top of the rock as best we can to provide a sort of a downstream barrier, so as an overtopping event happened and the dam started to erode, the sheet pile would act as support for the structure and not allow full loss of the reservoir. Second option was to raise the existing core wall that's in the dam up, so similar if the dam overtops, then we start to have erosion on the downstream side. We stop it from causing a full breach and losing the reservoir, because we would hit that core wall, which would provide some arrest of that erosion. In both of those conditions, you lose the downstream slope and a chunk of an extra road, particularly for the core wall one. And then the third one, which was to armor that downstream slope, so when we do get the overtopping, we really have minimal amount of erosion on the downstream slope and it's intact, from the overtopping event.
And the sheet pile and the core wall are on the upstream side of Dexter Road?
They're on the downstream side. The core wall is where the core wall is from the plans we have. It zigzags a little from upstream-ish, closest to City Hall, and as you get across towards the spillway, it goes kind of diagonally across. The sheet pile wall, though, we would put on the downstream side. We'd like to stop it as far downstream as we can, so we minimize any potential damage.
Okay. Questions? Mr. Nickerson?
If you go, sorry.
Go ahead, please.
If you go back to your first slide or the one that was actually getting very specific about options, you know, in terms of.
Oh, the big option.
Yeah, that's what I'm ready to look at. You know, well, just keep going, because there was, right before the culvert one, there was quite a bit of, those are the inundation maps, but there was
Yes.
also, is the culvert the only option, you know, in terms of augmenting the downstream, you know, in terms of the water trajectory? It's only this culvert that's the, you know, in terms of enlarging the existing culvert. That's the only potential solution. There's no other culverts involved. There's no other.
No, this is what, as we've mapped the flow, you know, just looking at the topography and the modeling, so, you know, the low areas, how everything is pitched, and so it's. The existing has this first culvert at Walnut Street, then we have a culvert at Hull Street, and if you go to the next slide, if you could, there are, you know, 3 other culverts. And we've sort of simplified it by just, you know, having one culvert in our.
Okay, so it's only one path, you know, in the
Correct.
sense of the flowing of. the
Yeah, so
water.
we've, those, you can see the inundation really is what, the water's flowing in the same direction the culverts are flowing.
Okay. Because I'm just sort of
Designed in that
like
location.
spider webbing it, or just getting it to sort of flow, not just down one path. It would sort of disperse it more, you know, there's no existing construct for that.
That's right.
Okay.
No, I was going to say, Jim, as part of an alternatives analysis, potentially, maybe a parallel culvert that's similar size to the existing one could be an option, but that's something that would have to be looked at as part of a feasibility study.
That's right.
Later on.
Okay.
Yeah, so instead of replacing what you have with a new larger one, we can just try to make up that area of flow in the second one that would parallel, you know.
It requires analysis because again, property takings, can we fit it?
I just, you know, you explored this one option, and I think that it would be great to understand if there are other options, you know,
Of course, but
this is where we are.
But that's about the size that would be required
we
to
would still need space.
carry that amount of flow.
Mr. Kelly?
I just wanted to interject on that. So one other idea would be to have a parallel rather than a 20-foot, like 210s, but that still goes 2 miles through 80
Right.
properties
Yes.
and 2 schools, like it's
It
still all those
doesn't change.
takings and utilities and underground and like that. I don't see that either of those are viable options right
How
now.
wide is the easement that goes through all those properties?
It's probably our standard easement, Alfredo, would you think?
Well, typically an easement, yeah, I mean, it depends on what it is for, but at least 10 feet wide. For this, it would,
Probably 20, I
yeah,
would
I would
think.
imagine it would be something wide.
So we now have a 10-foot, we have, let's say we have.
10 to 20 foot.
We have a 20-foot easement, let's say, and we have a 10-foot, and we're talking about putting another, we have a 10-foot culvert. We're talking about sistering it with another 10-foot culvert. We don't really have the space to do that. Unless we do a taking.
More easements.
An additional.
Miles of takings.
Thank you. That was helpful just to remind us of what we're doing. And we've been joined by Councilor Malky, and I noticed, I think Councilor Block joined us and Councilor Lucas. Was there anybody, Councilor? Councilor Farrell? Anybody else? No? Okay, so to move us to the next step, and since we're talking about a sensitive committee, I took the liberty of just getting something on paper to start off the conversation. So could you give me one?
Okay.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. What's the best way to do it? To read it out loud? I started off with some generalities, and since we have the engineering folks here.
Do you
can-
have a scanned copy that we could project or?
Yeah, you must have.
Okay, this is here something about use version of the chair.
Yeah, yeah. And I didn't introduce Lisa Panell, who without Lisa, we couldn't do any of this. So we have the best.
We're describing the chair. Mr. Nicholson, you just want to get out of the hot seat.
And now David's in office.
Okay. So the first item just is stating the fact that that this has been before the committee at various points in time over the last 7 years. And during that time, there've been 2 contracts with 2 nationally known dam engineering companies. Is that how you referred to a dam engineering company?
Yes.
Is that good enough? I don't know. Both of these companies essentially recommended the same option, which was, I couldn't remember if it was C or 3. I don't remember the name of the nomenclature, but both companies over the different course of the years recommended the same. So that's just a fact. The second one is about the timing and is about the change in climate. And I'm just gonna read it. It can feel like we don't have any urgency to fix the dam because nothing has happened so far. This statement shows that climate change has changed our sense of timing, and the likelihood of a 100-year storm happening more frequently has changed. So it just so happens that there's a journal called Earth's Future. And in their November 2025 journal, there was an article about the increase in 100-year storms happening in the Northeast. And it says, our findings show that under combined effect, this is from the abstract, under the combined effects of sea level rise and climate change, historical 100-year extreme water levels along the US Northeast coastline would occur annually by the end of the century. So, and what I read in another article that referred me to this article was that it would take 75 years to get to the point where the 100-year storm is what we're having annually because of climate change. And I give you in here the actual article, who the authors are, when it was published, and also there's a link to the article. It's an open source article, so anybody can read it. It's published by Wiley. So even if now I tried to call you, Shauna, and ask you this question because I wanted to be sure I was accurate here, but even if we're voting for an option tonight, which would ask for the creation of a final design, which we are not doing, it would be 2 years before the project would be completed. Does that sound right?
At least.
At least. So anything can happen in the next 2 years, including a 100-year storm. So again, these are just facts. Number 3, it talks about a breach of the dam, which would cause untold damage to private and public property. And we have learned that the city would be liable for the damages and that the burden to taxpayers can be avoided by fixing the dam as required by the Office of Dam Safety in a timely manner. And we did, I hope you all read the information that we got from Andrew Lee that the entity does include municipalities. So we are liable as the Office of Dam Safety put in that last letter to us. So this is where I'm putting in my thoughts, and we can definitely edit this, all of it. So it is the sense of the committee, which I can't read anymore because people are coming. It is the sense of the committee that option C3 would work well as a means to fix the dam. It was selected by both dam engineering consultants. The other options provide unnecessary risks. And the final statement, which is I think very important, is that this letter represents the sense of the committee. A new mayor will begin work on January 1st, 2026. He will have additional conversations with the consultants and perhaps new options will appear. The committee remains open to learn of the new options and provide further advice to the mayor as they may evolve. So that's a pretty simple statement, and I would love to have comments and edits and see if we can get something done tonight on this letter. So anybody want to comment, edit?
Well, you've got a lot of content in bullet number 2.
Yeah, it's because there's it's a citation from the abstract of that article, and then it gives you, it's not actually that much content, it gives you all the information about
Right.
the title, the authors, the dates and so forth.
Yeah. No, I
That
would
goes
just,
to door.
I think Alan.
Alan
might
went
have
out.
to talk to them.
Okay, thank you, Alan.
I'm just sort of feeling like your points, your 1, 3, and those are the points that you want to make. And I sort of feel as if that's almost like a footnote or something that needs to be,
Yes,
that felt like it would be more appropriately.
to take the, yeah.
Yeah, it's,
So Lisa, if we would make note of that, we should make that, all that reference stuff to a footnote. And Council Payless.
So, I mean, I think you put it well, I think you're kind of bringing down the temperature, which is a good thing, because this is just a sense of the committee. It's not, we're gonna move forward with this project versus another project. That, would it, does it give you any direction, or what do you do with this? Or does
So
it just go?
proceed- We need to proceed with the design, so we need an option to pursue design with.
Right, but this just goes, it seems like this goes to the mayor or the new mayor.
We have to come back for funding.
Oh, you have to come back for
We
funding.
have to come back for funding anyway, so there'll be a discussion when we come back for funding.
Mhm.
And if there are new options with the new mayor, of course, we'll be back.
That's right.
okay.
The one thing I do want to say, last time we were here, we agreed with a representative from the Willows Pond Dam Association.
Yeah, no, there's no dam, it's just the Willows Pond Association.
So that there would be, I think we went out of our way to basically say we want to bring in people. And we got nothing. And I'm a little upset about that, because I thought we had established kind of an approach that would get them to be included. Now, that being said, I think what you're doing here helps us to be able to move forward.
That's good. Council Andrew?
Yeah, I was hoping to receive something from the association with their preferred approach. But I don't know whether it's a question of they're needing more time, or whether they decided that they don't want to make any, don't want to give us an idea, put anything in writing as far as what the preferred approach is, because if we don't hear from them, then we as a committee, that's one piece that we were hoping to include for transparency and reaching out to the neighborhood. But if the neighborhood, if that association isn't going to give us their opinion, then we kind of hit a brick wall on that one.
I think that it was pretty clear from my conversations and the letters that, the association wants to put their faith in the mayor and what the mayor will come up with as solution, and that's why the number 5 was added there. To give the mayor a chance to, I mean, of course, the mayor has a chance to do it, it's of course.
If it's only if I can just say one more thing, if it's only the sense of the committee that you're getting now, and the decision is gonna be put off until the next term, then I think, we just need to know where we are at this table.
Well, there was no decision asked for. They were asking for a sense of the committee. That's all they were asking for. So I put down that to go with the consultants as the preferred option. And if the mayor comes up with something else, he can bring it back as another option.
Now, I don't know if Counselor Laredo is going to be attending.
He has another event and he was gonna join us online when he could.
Okay, if he doesn't, and when I spoke to him, he wanted me to convey that he wants this pushed off. If possible. I don't know that he's seen kind of the sense of the committee language and how he would feel about that, but I know that he wants a crack at this, so I just wanted to voice that.
So I think number 5 covers that. He has a total crack at it.
Yeah.
But it's hard to give advice to move forward if we have no idea what that's gonna look like? Or what the Lower Pond Association is gonna recommend. I find it hard to state an opinion at this point, because it seems to me that moving it forward to the next term with a new mayor, and honestly, a new public facilities makes the most sense. So I don't have an opinion right now on what is best to give you the advice that you need. I'm just speaking for myself.
I understand.
Okay.
Thank you, Mary.
I was ready to vote for option 3 quite a while ago. You know, this came before when I was chair of this committee, so it's been going on for 7 years. And I think we're looking for some kind of magic project that's going to appear. And we were working with BPA, and we were open to listening, all the options. Many of them were I think all of them were reviewed, and they were not recommended for one reason or another. The state didn't allow it. It wasn't practical. You can't have human intervention in that. We went through all the options, and I agree that none of them are perfect. But I think we should have already voted for this, and we should already have been starting to replace the dam for safety reasons. That's where I was quite a while ago. So I would recommend, if you want my opinion as a member of this committee, I think we should move ahead with option 3. Now I'm hearing that we want to pump this to the next mayor. And that seems to be the will of the karma in the room here. I don't agree with that, but obviously.
That was just me.
Well,
I'm not speaking for.
no, I know, but
Okay.
that's what I'm hearing, what I've been hearing. It's what I've been hearing. And I don't mind that. Let's just hope there's no 100-year storm between, in the next year or 2 or 3, however long this takes. I was shocked to hear your response, the 20-foot culvert, which is just a non-starter. That is, everyone knows that will never happen. It will never happen. So we have to think of other options.
Agreed. Well, the question was asked, we did need to answer it.
So I think.
To the best of our ability.
Yeah, the only other piece of this is that, I think that the opinion that's stated in terms of like here in number 4, the sense of the committee is that option 3 would work well as a means to fix the dam. I don't know that that's the sense of the committee. So I think it's important to maybe sort of qualify that in a way, that maybe directionality or, that it's not, in my opinion, appropriate to be saying that option 3 was going to be chosen by this committee. That's sort of the part.
So we could have a straw vote on which option we like.
You see, I think that this is where I go into, what is even, the door is open in number 5, that where there's the potential of exploring other options. So that's where I am at, in terms of even actually trying to widen this a little bit more.
I'm just curious, as a committee, are you willing to spend money on another consultant, another $150,000 to do another consulting on this?
No, we've got 2
So
consultants.
the mayor
That's
himself is
something.
going to figure this out, as without a consultant, he's going to come up with a new option? Is that what you think is going to happen?
After 7 years of trying, by the way.
Counselor Danvers?
7 years.
Yeah, we've had 2 paid consultants, 2 very good, both very good companies, excellent companies. We've gotten the same answer from both companies. Are we gonna spend another 150,000 on a third? Why do that, number one? And we're nuts if we're gonna do that, honestly, because we have 2 very good consultants that have come up with the same answer, and their suggestion was option 3. I wanted to know from the very beginning, if we did the sheet going down, what if you hit bedrock? Well, the answer to that is that you have to stop at the bedrock unless you want to blast all the bedrock out, and that's an area, if you know that area, there's bedrock all over there, ledge. I feel very nervous about letting those homes that are in this area continue to be at risk. And I think that the most important thing to do is to do something make a decision. Why are we not making a decision on this? I think that we should be moving forward on this. I can certainly understand, the new mayor, we're very close to a new administration. I can certainly understand the new mayor wanting to have a crack at this. But I am ready to move forward with option 3. I am happy to, believe what the consulting companies have come up with. And I would be ready today to vote for option 3, but that's just my vote. And yours, yes, so we've got
Council
2 of us.
If I'm hearing you correctly, we're not really even making a decision,
No.
even if we.
It's
No,
just a
we're
consensus
just giving a consensus.
if there is one, which there might be.
I suppose, I mean, having a straw vote on whether we like option 3 or C or whatever it's called would be, and then put that number in the document would indicate whether people are there or not. And those of you who don't want that option have another option, or you just want to wait and see what comes up?
I don't have another option. I've been listening to, again, the neighbors, if I was forced to vote, which we're not doing tonight, I would say to do that. But I haven't been convinced that it's the best or only option. I don't think we need to hire another company. I don't.
So what is the other option?
I don't
that-
know. I don't
So,
know another option.
So
Councilor Kayla,
the way I'm thinking about it is, and I can't be in Council Laredo's head, but, you know, maybe he doesn't want us to pinpoint something, so he can look at everything and evaluate it in a different way and then move ahead. You know, he might have a recommendation in mind with another aspect to it. I don't know, and that's part of the problem, is that, I don't think this hamstrings him, but I just don't, I don't want to.
I don't think it hamstrings him. I just wanted to say that this is my ward. And what are there 400 homes downstream of this? Something like
In
that?
danger.
There's 2 schools, a high school and an elementary school, and about 400 homes.
It said 2 elementary schools.
2 elementaries.
What's the other one?
Elementary school.
Jackson, the new
Jackson.
Lincoln.
Oh, the new Lincoln Elliott.
Lincoln Elliott, okay.
Sorry, I forgot about that one. 2 elementary schools and a high school and many, many homes. And this doesn't require the mayor to do anything. It just indicates that 2 engineering firms who have national reputations have decided that this option is the best. And I don't want my constituents to be flooded, because I read what it's like to have a 1700 CFS stream of water coming at you. And it will take cars, people, trees, it will ruin homes. And I think we need to give an indication that it's time to move on this.
Can I just make another comment?
Yes.
President Laredo was a member of this committee, so he's been listening to all this all along. So it's not like he's been in the dark. We're talking about him like he doesn't know much about this when he's been here the whole time.
That-
So that's all. I'm just saying he is part of this committee.
Yeah, that's the point, like, that's why, I think him saying, please speak for me, that I want this to be pushed off, means something, because he has some idea in his head.
But he's not sharing with us.
I don't know.
It's just not
He has been
enough.
able to speak his mind the entire time that we've been talking about this. And has. I don't think that there's any secret that is being pushed off. I think we're shirking our responsibility, frankly, if we don't move forward on this.
So I have 2 folks that want to speak, Councilor Malinky and then Councilor Farrell.
Thanks. If I can make a couple of observations as not a member of the committee, but it seems to me that as far back as this goes, until basically this year, the entire focus of the consultants, both great consulting companies, their entire assignment was to satisfy the Office of Dam Safety. Nobody, and over the last couple of years, we've been told by, both current and former DPW commissioners that we're only doing this because the Office of Dam Safety is making us. So it's a bit odd to suddenly be all in a panic, we have to do it now or else, when the attitude for so long has been, we're only doing it because the Office of Dam Safety is making us. We only found out this summer, basically, when Councilor Mickley and me and others started asking what happens if there's an overtopping without a breach. Nobody bothered to mention before that, overtopping by itself could lead to flooding downstairs, downstream. And that is not part of the Office of Dam Safety's concern. I think many of us, including President Laredo, we want to take the opportunity to look at a broader solution. We may not be able to completely eliminate flooding downstream, but we ought to at least try to mitigate the flooding that could occur even with an overtopping. And it doesn't make sense to me to put in any work yet on the narrowly focused ODS, checking the box solution, and not look at the broader picture.
Councilor Farrell.
Thank you, Chair. I continue to be concerned about a lack of what I think is a very important piece of information. I wrote on September 15th to the commissioner and again on November 15th to you and the committee about asking, what are we trying to protect? We have estimates by the consultants of damage if the dam breaks, and we have assurances that there will be an overtopping and that the damage that will happen to a certain part of Newtonville. I have asked twice now, at least, and publicly in the meetings, can we not get a financial analysis of what each of those scenarios actually means? I mean, we have no idea. I have no idea. Are we talking about if the dam breaches, it's going to be $150 million worth of damage? If the dam overtops, are we talking about $50 million? And you just talked, Chair, about untold damage. I think there's a way for us, before we make a decision about what we're going to try to do to fix this, to get some accurate estimates about what the financial damage likely will be. And until we know that, I don't think we have any real sense about just what kind of a solution we do want to have. So I don't know why we can't get the consultant, if the consultant is still working, to give us a financial forecast on each scenario, the overtopping of the dam and a complete breach. And I think it would give us a much more substantial information. You know, I heard you talking just now about flooding waters coming at you and cars rolling around and people being swept away. You know, I imagine what the people in Texas thought about this spring. And people kept saying to them, you need to look at ways to stop this, to solve this. That cost was horrendous in life lost. And we have no idea, as far as I do, I don't know what this committee has ever talked about in terms of the financial and the potential loss of life and property. So I would just ask again, if the committee is part of the information for itself to move forward or to hand it over to a new mayor and administration, what's a professional financial forecast for the losses in each of the scenarios you've been discussing? Thank you very much.
Did you want to speak to that?
I do want to point out that the Office of Dam Safety letter makes it clear that there's a risk to people, safety, risk of loss of life, and that's only in an overtopping, not it's in a breach, not an overtopping. So do want to make sure that everyone's aware of that there is truly a risk for loss of life.
Mr. Nickerson, have you dealt with any after effects of a breach to know what these things cost in lives or property?
I have, on a large project in Michigan that been working to rebuild, 4 dams that. I mean, that's a $350 million project to repair the 4 dams. And I don't know what the cost of the restoration to everything downstream has been, but it's probably 3 times that. So, so I don't have a great number to give you that. And there are some tools that could be used that the Army Corps has developed over the last couple of years to look at, risk and, impacts to help with their risk assessments. A lot of it is what happens downstream, what are those consequences? So it would be possible to do some modeling to evaluate that.
Councilman?
We do know, that 450 homes, Newton North High School, the whole village of Newtonville and the Massachusetts Turnpike would be impacted, damaged. So that would be probably hundreds of millions of dollars right there.
Correct.
If it was severe enough. I mean, I don't know what it matters if it's $20 million or $100 million. I mean, we gotta fix the dam.
I mean, if people in my ward lose their homes, and I honestly don't care if it's 200 million or 50 million. If they lose their homes, it's gotta be more than 50 million, because those homes are worth a lot of money. And certainly the school is worth a lot of money, the schools. So I'm not sure how it helps, Councilor Farrell, for us to know how many hundreds of millions of dollars this risks us for if we don't fix the dam. And so I'm prepared to vote on something tonight without knowing that number, because it has to be fixed. Do you still have your hand raised, Councilor Farrell?
Yes, I do, Chair.
Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
It seems to me that knowing the potential financial and loss of life to either a full breach or an overtopping might suggest how much money the city is willing to spend to prevent it, because I don't hear any solution right now that you're going to prevent an overtopping. All of the consultants had said, no matter what plan you use right now with the 3 plans, there will be an overtopping. So what does that mean? Maybe we need to spend more money. Maybe we need a different solution.
Well, I think you missed the beginning of the meeting. Did you? Or were you here?
The point, Chair, is it does make a difference. If we're looking at 150 million just by an overtopping, and we're talking about a $3 million fix to the dam, maybe we need to up the fix to 10 or 15 million.
So Councilor Farrell, Mr. Nickerson, would you mind just doing a couple of sentence recap of what it would take? We did discuss at the beginning of the meeting, because this was a leftover question from the last meeting. I hope, can I ask this the right way? What does it take to?
Yeah, so we did look at what we would need to do to improve the drainage system downstream of the dam to accept the overflows from an overtopping event. The culverts ended up that we would need would be about 2 miles long of a 20-foot wide by 12-foot deep culvert that would really cross.
Which is about double the size of the existing culvert.
So we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars to deal with, prevent the overtopping. Is that?
Well, it's not preventing the overtopping,
No,
it's collecting the
sorry.
water from the
It's
overtopping.
collecting the water so it won't flood. That's what, hundreds of millions of dollars to do that. With lots of easements and disruption of people's houses, going underneath the high school, going underneath roads, moving utilities, going underneath the Cabot School, going underneath the
Railway.
the railway,
The Mass Pike.
Mass Pike. And then we have to get Watertown to do it as well, or we'll just back up in Newton. So we did discuss that at the beginning of the meeting, and I'm sorry that you missed that. Go ahead, Councilor Farrell.
Chair, what that says to me is that we are willing to risk damages in the hundreds of millions of dollars in Newtonville that the city would be liable for, as you suggested, or as someone suggested, even without answering the question. I just think it's important for us to know, what are the parameters? What are we really looking at? And I don't think I don't know what a financial model would cost, but it can't be, it certainly wouldn't be hundreds of $millions. And I just think we need to be honest about what we're spending money on and say to the people in Newtonville, it's entirely possible that you're going to lose your home. And then how many of them? 450. They're going to lose Newton North High School. Yeah, it's just, I think the financial analysis is critical to this decision making. Thank you. I appreciate it. I've taken up a lot of your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner, could I ask the consultant a question, please?
Sure.
In the case of an overtopping, will we lose homes?
No,
What was that?
we don't believe in an overtopping, we're gonna lose homes. We would have water flooding maybe to them, but it's not, the flows are significantly less than the breach scenario.
It's the breach scenario that I think that's important for you to realize that, Councilor Farrell, that it's the breach that we're trying to stop. The overtopping is not as hurtful as the breach. Councilor Gill.
No, I just sort of feel as if we need to address what you had specifically stated in terms of drafting this. So I think that's the focus of tonight, just to get this
Yes.
agreed to or straw voted or whatever, so that then this document leaves the
Okay.
committee, because we're not voting it out. It's
It's
not
a-
in a status that we can vote. it.
It's a sense of the committee, that's all we're
Correct.
doing.
So I just sort of would like to refocus us. And
Yes,
not
thank you
make
for
this
that.
Why this it is right now.
You win the day.
Okay. Not getting a cookie.
No.
Ooh, chop.
No. So, should we, okay, let's try and do this point by point. Do you want to leave number one alone, or leave it in, leave it out? That's the one that talks about,
You've got a cheap pile.
no, that's essentially the history.
Those are
that it's
the
been
facts.
around for 7 years now.
Oh, you're not talking about the dam, you're talking about your.
I assume that's what you're bringing it back to, is that, yeah. So one is really just factual. Two is about the change, the climate change, and that we should do something because climate change is coming and we can fix the, make it look better, get the footnote. Lisa knows how to do that. She'll fix that.
Yes.
Number three is that a breach would cause damage to public and private property, and it would be a burden to taxpayers. I don't think there's much argument about that one.
Excuse me, Chair, I can't see it on the screen, the third option. Oh. No, I was gonna get it.
I don't mind the standing, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Councilor Lucas, I didn't realize you were over there, so I'll pay attention to if your hand goes up. Okay, the last two, the four is that a sense of the committee is that it is the sense of the committee that option C or three, is it C or three? Which one is it?
Three.
So leave it, option three would work well as a means to fix the dam. Do you want to have a straw vote on that and say how many people think that's right? How many people think nothing, they don't know what's right? Yeah. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, and then we can put the numbers in here and it will reflect what we, yeah?
Well,
Yes.
okay, but I also think it's, well, in my mind, it's not a matter of fixing the dam, it's reaching compliance with the from dam safety. That's more wise it's not fixing the dam, it's the compliance with the, the order. However you want to phrase
It
it.
is important to understand that we have to submit whatever we're designing to the Office of Dam Safety for approval.
To meet, so change that to is a means to meet the requirements of the Office of Dam Safety.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it qualifies what you're saying.
Okay, good. It was selected by both dam engineering consultants. You're sure that's the way I should say that? Dam,
Yes.
is there a better way? No, okay. The other options provide unnecessary risks, so is that written okay? And do you want to just have a straw vote on whether we agree with,
Maybe inherent risk.
say it? How would you write
Inherent
it?
risk.
Instead of, and she's correct, because we were questioning whether or not we would get into both the structural integrity of the dam.
Yep.
And then we also were concerned about just
The bedrock.
bedrock and so.
You're taking notes too, right? So,
Those two options also more expensive.
Yes.
yes,
And wasn't cost part of why we were not aiming towards one?
you know,
and two?
I don't think cost was
Okay.
because in the original, I
It was
read.
not, okay.
Your original application to us said that you were gonna look really seriously at the sheet pile. That's the solution that you were looking towards, so I don't think, and they picked that one for that reason, so I don't think cost was the issue.
That was a fact, but it wasn't part of the criteria that we were using.
Right. So the other, so it should read now, the other options provide inherent risks, is that how it should read?
Yes.
Okay, so do we want to take some kind of a straw vote on whether we agree with that or not? And it's, the issue is whether we're gonna pick option 3 or not. Yes,
Yes.
okay. So can you frame that in a motion?
No, he's wanting to say
Councilor
something.
Taylor.
So,
Who's that over here?
feel like we need a 0.6,
Okay,
which just acknowledges that the committee heard that the Bullows Pond Association is not aligned with
Any of these options.
any of the options. Although we attempted to understand the specifics and the questions involved, we weren't able to ascertain, but we recommend more involvement with the community.
okay. I think we can, we have the sense of it, I think we could wordsmith it between now and, yeah. So the committee attempted to ascertain, that's what you said. And that more work should be done to determine their preferences.
Yeah, to collaborate with them.
We recommend further collaboration. Simply.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good.
EPA is not aligned with any of the current options. We recommend further collaboration with them.
Okay. We might put that one before numbers, reverse, make that number 5 and put number 6 as the mayor's one. Okay. Right. Yeah? Do you want to make a motion about the straw vote?
So should we decide on which option the members of the committee prefer in the straw vote?
Well, is there any preference for anything besides option 3, or you just don't know?
Yeah, I'd like to keep my options open.
Okay, so it's,
Okay, so how about if maybe this should be more than one motion.
okay,
Have a motion for preference for option 3. I'll make that motion.
okay,
All those in favor of option 3 could raise their hand.
so that's 4.
It's majority. That was
Is it? Who was it? David,
Oh,
you signed your, you had, you.
What are we doing now? We're voting?
So I think what we're gonna,
Be a
I think,
subtext.
I think that the
Yeah.
2 of you would like to just keep your options open, you don't have a preference at this moment.
Yeah.
So it would be 4 in
Yes.
favor of option 3, 2 would want to keep their options open and to see what comes up later.
Yes.
Let's make it 3-3.
3. Okay.
Half the committee is in favor of option 3 and half would like to keep. option
Well, it
one.
looks like we're gonna keep our options open.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to reflect what was
the
said at the table.
options because the language for the mayor covers that we're still exploring.
I know. it
So
does.
that it is open just already, so maybe you just eliminate which option you're recommending just to proceed, because that's essentially what you're
We're
doing
not
with
recommending one or
number
two.
6.
Well, yeah, we're not
We're
recommending
not
1 or 2.
recommending one or two.
Yeah, So it doesn't.
The committee was split between 3 and keeping options open.
Right.
I mean, that's the reflection of what's being said at this table.
Yes. So I think unless anybody wants to add or edit anything else,
We also are joined by Councilor Rado.
Was redundant. It's like, okay. He's probably got two different events at the same time. So I think we should, I mean, he's missed this whole conversation. We should probably finish.
Not gonna vote on this.
Yeah,
Are we gonna do NAMs? Is that the intent?
we can, I think we should let it just go. We should have the defense of the committee the way we have just done and leave these options to die, leave the docket items to die at the end of the term. Because if we NAM the item, there'll be nothing to take to the council.
Okay, so we'll hold it?
No, we'll vote for this and hold the items and then they will die at the end of the term.
Oh,
NAM them after we go to the council.
It's not another.
But no, just let them die after we go to the council.
For them to be so if we vote them, we have to take action, to vote no action necessary, so that's the council.
That's what we did with Newton Highlands. We held it.
Or
We held it.
Yeah, but it's a whole new term now, but there
It
you go.
will just die at the end of the. term.
Yes, it will die. It will hold it for now. And then it go to the council with this and explain that that the items themselves will die at the end of the term, and we're asking the council to support the sense of the committee. Yes, that's what we did with Newton Highlands.
Oh, it was, sounds complicated.
Well, it was a discussion item to start with, so that made it difficult for us.
So will they both be held? Do you need motions to hold both of these?
Yes,
I'm happy to meet.
Okay.
We're already doing that.
yeah, I'm gonna, Councilor Lucas, go ahead.
thank you. I'm just for what the committee is trying to do right now, I'm having a hard time following it. That's just me. I don't know if the committee is going to NAN or make a motion to approve one of these docket items, 103
Then
and
I was gonna make a
14,
motion to
24.
hold both of them.
You're
You're
gonna
To
gonna make a-
clarify your question, I'm going to make a motion to hold both of these items.
That's clear, thank you.
Okay. 1 second, Lisa.
I'm not sure that would work.
All items that are not acted upon die at the end of the term, unless they're referred to the forward council. So they will die.
Just in terms of if you were holding for the item, I think at least to my understanding, my discussions with Cassidy.
She preferred us to NA the items,
That was her preference.
and we can still bring the sense of the committee even though we're NA in the item.
Yes, okay.
Okay, I'm happy to do that then.
We'll do whatever's right.
Okay, so you want to change your motion?
I would.
Sorry.
Amend my motion to NAN both 103.24 and 418.24. Make a motion to NAN.
Okay,
And you can vote them separately if you want.
I think we're gonna vote the same way on both. So all those in favor? Say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Well, it's fine. Put to bed. Now I have to find my, Can we do a couple? Yes, it's spelled out.
No, we're not. I don't see them out.
What?
See in the second row.
It's happy.
There's over.
That one.
We're fine.
See.
I'm not even.
Square number 3, row 2.
As a co-host.
We can
Well,
talk here.
Maybe she should be as a member.
And I'm hoping that Frank can see just a
Okay.
text from Frank.
He was having
He
technical.
needs to have his
It's hard.
technical hopefully.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
And also-
That is also Rado.
Okay.
Okay.
It's just that probably at 2 events at the same time, makes it hard.
It's back though.
So are you leaving us? Thank you.
I'm going to say for this.
Oh, boy.
Because, I just had a text from Frank that he's having some technical difficulties. Frank, can you speak, hopefully? Frank Nichols.
Yeah.
Just a heads up, I'm not sure my microphone
Yeah.
will work. I can hear the discussion. It
Frank-
doesn't work.
Frank Nichols, are you there?
I can put him on speaker.
Okay.
Could also change his name simply as if you'd like to do that in the identifier.
Could you add your name? Could.
Last name.
Okay, well, while you're doing that, I'm gonna read it into the record. Okay. 5625, Betsy Harper, 19 Fairmont Ave, Newton, petitioning for a main drain extension that begins at the end of the line drain manhole near 1617 Chapin Road and extends approximately 482 feet easterly to the end of Chapin Road. This will provide a means for overflow connections to the proposed on-site filtration system that was designed for the new dwelling. The overflow connections will be provided to the dwellings along the proposed drain main extension. Petitioner to pay the entire cost. Okay, so that is the item. Are you all set with Frank?
Can I ask a technical question?
Yeah.
Did you need to unmute him in order for him to speak?
No, I
No. Mm.
should be able to speak now. I see that this is my phone.
Frank, can you try to speak? I know that he can hear us.
Hello?
Oh,
Ah, there you go.
Excellent, thank you.
Oh,
We-
good, I'm glad.
All right, well, we're just getting started on this 5625, the Chapin Road. And by the way, there's a lot of food here. Anybody that's gluten-free, there's Oreos that I didn't know that Oreos made gluten-free, but please. Should we pass them around for a minute?
I got my dessert in the hallway.
We also have some things from Wilson Farms.
I'll take one of those.
I think you should sit right there.
Back to.
And I know John back.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should have been on this. I have no idea. You have to.
This is on.
Okay.
Oh, sure, the fruit was good.
Back to work. So, just to recap, we had this before, as we were in committee. We voted it. What was the vote? 3 in favor, 2 opposed, and 1 abstention. We sent it up to the council, and at the council, we asked that it please be sent back to committee so that we could do a third-party review, which has happened. So that's a recap of where we've been with this. So we have Betsy Harper, whose name I just read is here, and would like to do a brief presentation and to start the evening off.
Just a brief summary.
Hear about the third party review? Oh, I thought we were gonna hear about the review. There's more from the petitioner first before that?
I don't know what you've written, so does it make sense to do your part first or the third party reviewer first?
I just have a relatively quick summary, about 3 points that I thought would be helpful to the committee.
So, no,
Well, I'm just sort of interested in finding out and speaking and addressing specifically the third party review. Because
okay, so why don't we wait and we'll do the third party review first.
Okay.
Okay, so Frank, if you're still here,
Yes, can you hear me?
you were kind enough under,
We want to introduce him probably.
Yeah.
Frank Nichols is our senior environmental engineer who works for the utilities department. He has a background in stormwater, so he should be very helpful. John Daglian is also here to answer any questions along with city engineer operator.
and we never introduced Bernie either, so you know.
Oh, and Bernie McDonald, our deputy commissioner, is also here.
Frank Nichols, you sort of you brought the two sides together get questions answered. So do you wanna, who wants to tell us about, is it you, was it Frank?
It's Frank will do the peer review, I believe.
Okay, so Frank, did you do the summary of the peer review for us?
Yes, I'd be happy to. Good evening, everyone. I did pull a meeting together with Weston and Sampson and all parties involved just to understand the scope of work and the key issues here. And it's my understanding that the key issue is to vote on or make a motion to vote on the drain main extension on Chapin Road. And Everett M. Brooks Company is the consultant who provided the design work and provided that information to Weston and Sampson for a peer review. And the peer review concentrated on the drain main extension. They needed to confirm that it had the capacity to handle 2 driveways and roadway extension at the end of Chapin Road, along with sump pumps for, I believe, 17 homes. And the pipe was going to be a 12-inch diameter concrete pipe laid at a 1.1% percent slope. And the peer review determined that it does have the capacity necessary to handle that amount of flow. And essentially, that's the key point here right now.
So maybe we should go through the 4 points of that, of the motion. You have you have the motion so that we can just look at it on screen.
The motion was related to the peer
review? Yes.
The scope that we
Yeah.
voted on for the peer review
Yeah.
to review.
So, Frank, you had the motion that it had 4 parts to it. We're gonna open it up again. There it is.
Would you like me to go over that?
Yes, please, if you could just go over the 4 parts to the motion. Dave, Council Cates, do you have a request?
I will. This is a memo by Alfredo Vargas, the city engineer, and John Daglian, and they summarize the 4 motions and the peer review comments. As we know, motion 1, review of the plans and proposed drain main extension. Weston and Sampson reviewed all plans and supporting documentation submitted by Everett M. Brooks and confirmed that the 12-inch drain pipe at a 1.1% slope is adequate and meets the city's design for a 10-year storm event. DPW, of course, concurs with this conclusion. Motion 2 was review of memo submitted by Everett M. Brooks and Chesia Consulting Services, LLC. The peer reviewer evaluated all memos, addenda, and amendments submitted by the applicant's engineers. Weston and Sampson found no issues of concern and DPW concurs. Motion 3, review of stormwater analysis for the proposed roadway and future lots. DPW agrees that the applicant has demonstrated compliance with several of the city's stormwater standards. However, additional standards must be satisfied at the time of final submission for the development of the 2 individual lots. Compliance will be evaluated once detailed design plans are submitted. Motion 4, review of impacts to Chapin Road related to stormwater. The applicant has adequately demonstrated that the proposed 12-inch drain pipe can convey runoff consistent with the city's 10-year design storm standard. DPW finds the design acceptable for this purpose. And I might add one comment. I was out there, I think 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I noticed that there's only 2 catch basins on the roadway now. And unfortunately, they're both under trees. And, you know, debris gets on top of them in the fall. And this proposed drain main extension, I believe, is adding 2 additional catch basins upstream, which will reduce the amount of possible ponding at the low point. So that's one benefit of this also.
Great. Questions? Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Nichols, thank you. I just have 2 quick questions, I guess, in the meantime. At the beginning, you said you met with Weston and Sampson and all parties involved. Can you just tell us who the all parties involved were?
It was Betsy Hopper, Alfredo Vargas, John Daglian, and myself.
So not the engineer that the neighbors had
Oh.
hired?
No, I apologize. Also Everett and Brooks, but no, not the engineer that neighbors had hired.
So one-sided.
Well, what did we ask them?
We had asked them to do Brooks and Chessia's reports and look at them together and analyze, like come up with some clarification for those of us who were confused and split. So that, to me, does not sound like all parties involved. That sounds like the petitioner and DPW people. But I don't wanna like be vehement. I just wanted to understand, that's what I thought you meant, but I was hoping that you were gonna include the Chesia side of that, but you did not. And point number 4, stormwater on Chapin Road. Did that include analysis of possible stormwater runoff in abutting properties, or was it just about these properties and the drains that were gonna be added? Like, I know we've been hearing from the 126 Homer Street people concerns and some of the Chapin Road. Did it include those stormwater impacts too?
From which property, may I ask?
Other abutting properties to the property here, like for instance, 126, and I forget the numbers of Chapin down at that lower end too. Did it include looking at? the
No,
storm-
because,
No,
well, yes and no. Any flow from the Chapin Road will not enter this pipe until the two new located catch basins. So.
yeah, I'm not talking about the pipe entry, I'm talking about runoff onto abutting properties.
I'm sorry, I don't quite understand from.
I think you're talking about once the houses are built, right? Not the main drain extension.
Or in the meantime, I'm assuming that the main drain extension is gonna help alleviate runoff in the meantime also. But is it all gonna help not direct water at abutting properties?
Well, the main drain extension is dealing with water on the roadway, right?
Well, it's
Am I
also
right?
dealing with water not coming out of, off the properties along Chapin Road, right? That was part of it, was having them tie in.
It's an
That's their option.
Correct, so I'm just asking if that was part of the analysis, is the flood, potential stormwater runoff onto abutting properties.
As far as people being allowed to tie into the new 12-inch,
Not necessarily. I mean, they are being given that option, I believe, correct?
they are, yes.
Being recommended.
I guess I'm just not clear because
Is, no,
the drain main extension begins at the end of Chapin Road with 2 catch basins. From there, it's a closed pipe until it gets to the 2 new catch basins, I think around that intersecting street, Stafford, I believe. So there'll be no additional water from properties getting into this pipe except at those 2 new catch basins.
But I want to make sure that the answer is understood because the main drain extension takes care of the water that would be created by the roadway. And it goes into the main drain extension, so there's no overflow from the roadway to anybody's property. Am I right, Council? Counselor.
I think the neighbors would like to be assured of that, is why I'm asking the question.
Right. So I think if Frank or John can answer that question, they have looked at this in a lot more detail than I have. So I don't want to misrepresent any of the information that they have reviewed. They both have reviewed this.
Mr. Dagley, you have your hand raised. Do you have an answer for this?
Yes, so when the material was submitted with Everett Brooks, they look at the watershed. It's not just the roadway itself, but the areas that drain off into Chapin Road alignment. So that was included as part of the review. And all the material,
Considered.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
The watershed was considered.
Yes. That was provided to Weston and Sampson.
Okay,
Thank you.
so did you have another question?
Nope, that was
No.
good for now.
Counselor Kalis.
I think these are easy, but why are we planning for a 10-year storm when we're planning for much larger storms for a lot of other things?
Who can answer that question?
That's the standard for roadway drainage designs.
And do we feel like that's enough? I mean, I know that's the standard, but I just want to make sure that we're not planning for something that just,
So the rainfall intensities are updated, so that is happening as the storms increase. So a rainfall intensity 10 years ago may have been a certain number of inches of rainfall. Those numbers have been increasing as storms get more intense.
right, and so has
So,
has our standard gone up?
It is still a 10-year storm that would contemplate those numbers. So the analysis that was done for these 12-inch pipe is using up-to-date rainfall amounts for a 10-year storm. So we're not looking at something from 10 or 20 years ago. We're looking at something that's up to date, but yes, it is for a 10-year storm. That's the engineering standard that the state DOT uses, and it's also the standard for the city.
How long has that standard been in place?
A very long time. I have been practicing for 20 years in Massachusetts, and for as long as I have been practicing, it's been in place since before then.
Okay. Can I ask Mr. Nichols?
Sure.
Mr. Nichols, we got a lot of information, and the Weston and Sampson information, there was a lot there, and I read through it, and can you just comment on all the areas where it said the standards are not met? Were those just irrelevant because they weren't exactly what we were asking for? Or does that make does that in any way affect your opinion of the project, of the main drain?
I believe you're speaking of the items are not met, the bulleted items on page 3. Those, yeah, those are the items you're speaking of. I'm looking at it now. All of those items are addressed when the plan is submitted, plans for the 2 lots are submitted for building permits. Engineering reviews every plan prior to a building permit being issued. And I can assure you, as I've always said in the engineering division, whenever a plan reviewer is reviewing a plan, the first phone call they're going to get is from an abutter. And so water and sewer connections are simple. Reviewing the stormwater systems for each lot is very involved, and that's the key thing we look at. We will, when I first started with the city about 15 years ago, I was a plan reviewer. I moved up to the director of engineering. And the key thing that we always look at is that no abutter is impacted from a new project or a new development or whatever. It just, we don't allow it.
Thank you.
So just to be clear, those items you mentioned that are not met, they will be met, or they won't get a permit to build a home.
Yeah. I'm a little hesitant on that because, we just have so many properties throughout the city that are getting water after new projects are built. And engineering signs off on them, and it's inexplicable. Whether there's more rain or it's underground water, there's a lot of different things to point at, and the ones holding the bag are always the neighbors. So that's how I'm thinking about this, and it's just a comment, not really a question.
Well, I'd like to mention that I am currently reviewing plans again because of a personnel issue. And the first thing I look at is drainage, topography, where the water's going, and we honestly don't allow it to impact on the butter. And if it were to impact the butter, I think they can file with the zoning officer up in ISD, but we do not, as far as I know, we do not approve plans that would impact on the butter, because again, that's the first phone call we're gonna get, and then it escalates, so.
I know, and I just want to say, I totally believe you. I think you do your best efforts. I'm just saying what I've heard on the ground.
Can I add one thing? We also didn't have a stormwater ordinance when some of these properties received their building permit. They were not required to meet the current stormwater ordinance. That could be part of the issue. I'm not saying it's all of the issue, but I do want to make that clear that stormwater ordinance changes a lot of.
How long has it been? 2 years that we've had that?
2022
Yeah.
was strengthened it, significantly strengthened it. We have one of the strongest ones in the whole state. It's stronger than the state. Well,
Are you all
So-
set, Council Kayla?
Yes.
Council Leary?
I just want to sort of refocus that the role of the committee this evening is whether or not to approve the main drain extension, which, as you know, the residents of Chapin Road have struggled with water issues for decades. This, to me, would solve their problems entirely with to me, it's almost a gift because the city isn't paying for this. And it would be the one way to really get the ponding off the roads with the new culverts. It has plenty of capacity. And so I have every confidence that that would be the best way to go, whether or not projects get built or not. This will solve the problem on Chapin Road. The second thing is, when you look at the peer reviewer where it said did not meet it, that's because we don't have a specific plan. And so you can't make that determination because there's nothing to determine. So that needs to be clear. And you just heard Mr. Nichols talk about they do not allow water to go onto other properties. This is something that's since 2022. So they have to, those buildings will not be built if they can't do that. So I think this is solid to me. I have every confidence that this will be a benefit to the neighbors, whether or not those properties get built or not. But the second thing to just understand is if those properties do get developed, they have to follow very strict rules. It's almost just they have to do all this stuff all over again. This is just the first step. So I have no doubt that we should be approving this main drain extension. City's not paying for it. And this will actually, there's no stormwater infrastructure on most of that street. So that's why, no wonder there's ponding and they've struggled with water issues for decades.
Ponding is not on the street.
It is on the street. I've seen it on the street.
Down on Tuckett, Chapin is sloped, so it rushes down.
Well, I've seen ponding.
No, it ponds on the street.
Ponding on the street. I mean, it could do that too on a heavier rain, but it definitely ponds and forms, slippery ice and everything. Yes.
Yeah, are you all set, Council?
Yes.
Council Danberg and Council Getz.
Okay, yeah, the point that I wanted to make is that this neighborhood has suffered very deeply for decades, with ponding, on the street. And their only solution now, to their own basements, filling with water when it rains, are sump pumps. And the sump pumps, to some extent, I think help, but the properties are close enough so that if it's a very heavy rain, the sump pumps will dump the water out onto the lawns because they cannot, a sump pump it's illegal to put water on the street, may not do that. So they put it onto the lawns and the lawns saturate, and where does the water go when the water saturates? It goes back into the basement. So it's just, you take it out of the basement, you put it on the lawn, it goes back in the basement. And that, when you have a bad rainstorm. I've seen, the ponding on this street. And, it's very difficult for the neighbors to cope with, because the two catch basins that exist there can, silt up very quickly, and they're not sufficient to, get rid of the ponding. The two catch basins that would be added with this project, I think would go a long way toward making this neighborhood whole, finally, for the first time. Another point that I would make is that this is a gift to the city and a gift to the neighborhood. Even regardless whether the homes choose to take advantage of the laterals, that must be provided and hook up their sump pumps, there will be an expense to doing that. Regardless whether they do that or not, the fact that the street will now drain is going to be a tremendous improvement to the neighborhood. And the providing of the drain for the street and the building of the homes and the permits that are involved with those are two separate things. The developer has been required to even move forward to try and develop these lots, must put this in. That drain has to go in first. And as Mr. Vargas and Mr. Nichols have explained, and everyone else here who has spoken, if the standard, the new 2022 standard is not met, and there have been cases where it hasn't been met in places, but if it's not met, the permits will not be given for building those homes, and we will just be left with a drain that drains the streets. So I think that drain is a very positive thing to go in, and I'm in favor of it.
Okay, Counselor Gaston?
Okay, so I'm gonna pan out a little bit here, because I actually thought highly of the Weston Sampson review. And I was very, I felt that we are fortunate to have had that level of review of the content. And I interpreted the standard had not been met for the specificity of actually the plans that were submitted. So I don't think a lot of this is speculative about the new bills that will be coming. I think it's actually looking at plans that were put in front of them, and the assessments were made based on those plans. I'm just saying that that's what the document is saying to me, in terms of like the areas that they were talking about, the siting of the test pits. All of this was based on the plans that were submitted. So that's where I go to in terms of the standard has not been met. The other thing that's concerning is, when in fact the plans were submitted, were there changes post to us being presented the content here at this table? Did they change the plans before this review and we were not privy to that content? That's a question I have.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that question again?
That in the interim, between the end of the summer and, in July and August, there was a set of plans. Were there changes to the plan before the peer review and they were not presented to this committee?
Mr.
I'd like to
Nichols,
ask
can
that
you answer
question.
that question?
I do not believe the plans were changed. I believe the first peer review, Weston and Sampson requested additional information as far as calculations and so forth from what, Everett and Brooks, and they provided that, and similar to, they also requested the tributary area for the runoff that's gonna reach the roadway. So they provided that, and then Weston and Sampson looked at that information and came to a conclusion. I don't believe the plans were altered, but I don't know that for a fact.
Well, I'm questioning the grade changes, because there was some sort of, in some of the, documents, there was a change of grade. That was changed within the plans themselves. And I didn't know that, you know, those changes, I'd like to know whether or not those changes were in fact presented to us.
I think I can help clarify. We created a set of plans that was presented to this committee. And at that time, there were some concerns about the amount of grade fill that was gonna happen. So on our own, we decided to stress test the model and come up with a different plan that would have less grade fill and a different configuration of leaching galleys. And we did that as a way to see whether or not, you know, this was the only solution that would be viable or whether there were other solutions. And I shared that in an email just as an FYI with this committee in early September. John Daglin was very clear that since that plan hadn't been presented officially to the committee, that would not be appropriate for the Weston and Sampson review. So that's fine. They reviewed the original plan that you saw and was discussed.
Yeah, because I was concerned that there had been a change in the plans and we didn't.
No, I think, Mr. Daglin was pretty clear that they couldn't see anything that was done after a certain point, after a certain, yeah.
Okay. All right, so, you know, just going back to the specifics within the called out, that the standard hadn't been met. The way I interpret this, the water table is really incredibly high. It was like 22 inches below grade. And I think it was 22 to 28 inches, so it seems as if lot 3 didn't get the correct amount of assessments in terms of where the assessments were located. So I'm sort of feeling as if that the configuration of lot 3 is not a valid sort of, you know, in the way that it's construed and presented. I don't know that we actually even have the real assessment of lot 3.
Mr. Nichols, did you have any sense from the Weston and Sampson review that lot 3 was not appropriately reviewed or could not be, I guess is the question, could not be appropriately reviewed?
I'm not sure what Weston and Sampson's position was on that, but they may not have had enough information to review it, but they weren't tasked with reviewing the lots to be buildable lots. The task was primarily to do the drain main extension. Because I think the plans for the lots were only preliminary. There was no definitive drainage design. So again, if they don't meet our standards, the lots will not be built upon. And our standards are much stricter than they have been.
All right, and then just lastly, you know, I think that in one of the comments that was made by their Brooks, they specifically talked about the infiltration being allowable or doable on the lot itself without the drain extension. You know, in terms of the buildability. And I just sort of felt like, okay, well, then leave it at that. You know, do not do the drain extension and just leave the infiltration for the lot itself.
I understand.
But I'm looking for it. I'm looking for it. Let me go to somebody else.
I think, if there's some infiltration that is unable to be infiltrated on site, there is an option for it to go into the main drain extension under probably like heavy conditions. But they have to do all the best practices, and that's the next stage where they have to go through, get the building permits, they get New York stormwater. That's something that is well beyond our purview here.
Right.
Although, of course, I understand being concerned about that. But the basic is that, as Ms. Nichols said, they cannot allow stormwater to go on other properties. So they could not be built. we'd still have the main drain extension, but in order to build those properties, if they're for a certain amount of water that could flow, that they couldn't infiltrate, that's, the main drain extension was required right at the beginning when this was subdivided by, the planning board, when that was done, that they required that back then.
Yeah, let's move to somebody else, because I really would like to speak to this, and I want to find that content in a moment. Okay.
Okay, you wanted someone to go ahead? and
Right,
come back to
please.
this? Counselor Danberg?
Okay. I went through this, as I'm sure everybody did, with a fine tooth comb. And concentrated heavily on the areas that where it said the standard has not been met. And each one of them, I went through and picked out the reason why the standard hadn't been met. And they were, it's because details that need to be provided in order for the standard to be met will be done at the time of the building permit. For example, discrepancies and deficiencies, that this is number 11. Deficiencies that must be addressed before additional review can be carried out. That will be done at the time of the building permit. Applicant should provide additional information to demonstrate compliance with this item. That will be done at the time of the building permit. In the end, items 6, 16, and 19 are on the Board of Survey plans. Would you explain what the Board of Survey plans are, someone, so that we all understand what that is?
Mr. Dagger?
Yeah, John, would you mind explaining that, please?
Sure, that was the original subdivision plan of the original lot, which was a little over an acre. They subdivided it into 3 lots. It was publicly advertised. There was public hearings. I believe there was 3 nights of public hearings. It was closed, and then the Board of Survey voted it with the condition that they come to this committee for a drain main extension.
Okay. Thank you. In number 20, for example, the city has asked that it did not meet the standard because it needs an operation and management plan, which is only done at the time of the building permit. Each one that where the standard has not been met, it is to be done at the time of the building permit. And in the end, in the summary, it says the remaining design standard items listed above as not being met will be addressed during the site plan / building permit process. So that seems to address, and I wanted to make sure that we had addressed every item where the standard had not been met.
I'll just note that item number 13, I had a note of that infiltration system drainage. It said they meet the standard, but it should be reviewed again when the building permit
At
is
the time of
requested.
building
So it ended up in the not met list, but it was really said it was met, but needs to be reviewed again at the time of the building permit. Counselor Getz.
Well, I'm just back to like point number 8, at least 24 inches of separation shall exist between the bottom of any stormwater management and seasonal high groundwater. And then their comment was that the 3 proposed leaching gallery systems meet the minimum separation standard. The 2 permeable paver driveways and portions that do not meet the separation standard based on the nearest test pit, the portion and at below the elevation of 132. This standard has not been met. So this is with specificity talking about the drive, the main.
Right, they'd have to redesign, they would have to redesign that
Correct.
in order
Yeah.
to meet the standard.
Yeah.
But that it wouldn't receive a building permit unless it met the standard.
Well, but when we talk building permit, are we talking about the actual buildings or are we talking about the roadway?
No, it's nothing to do with the roadway. It's to do with the lots and the buildings.
Well, see, this is where I'm getting totally confused because it's actually I thought that this was talking about the roadway.
So,
It's talking about.
the letter could.
The driveways for the 2
That's
houses.
what I
But the
thought.
two,
Yes.
but not the main drain extension. their letter is divided into two parts, but it's not very clear.
But please explain to me, because I just assumed that, you know, the roadway itself it's gonna have a certain amount of stormwater that comes off of it, and it's gonna require drainage into this main drain extension. So it needs to meet the standard. Am I missing something here?
It needs to meet the standard, but the houses haven't been designed yet.
This is for the roadway. This
Wait,
is not for
The
the
roadway that hasn't been
No.
built yet.
right.
No,
Right, no,
wait,
wait.
not the roadway,
Driveway.
the driveway, not the
The
roadway.
driveway into the new lots.
Okay.
Is that correct, Alfredo
It's this is, I believe it is and I would
and Frank?
have
Yes.
also.
That's correct. For the driveway, the per individual house, not the road.
Oh, oh. All right, and then we go on to, okay, well, I do not believe in segmentation. I don't like the idea of simply looking at, you know, the provisos for the roadway and then, you know, moving on to at the building permit stage for the buildings. And
So,
That's not
So-
our purview.
no, all right, but what you're asking here is you're putting in a main drain extension that will then provide for this roadway at this juncture, at this point, but down the road is going to provide for these new builds.
If they can get a building permit. The question that we need to ask ourselves for what we're gonna vote on tonight is not, have we solved all the problems for getting building permits for building houses there? The question that we need to ask ourselves tonight is, will this drain extension improve the roadway? Even if, and the lives of the people on the street, even if no houses are ever built? And the answer that I've come to from all of this, and from the consultants and from everything that's been put in front of us is yes, that the drain extension will improve the lives of everyone by having two more catch basins, even if nobody chooses to connect to the laterals.
there's.
Their lives will be better if this drain extension is done. The houses may never be built. They will only be built if all the standards can be met.
There's a line in page 2 of this November 25th document, which sits there unbolded, and unheralded. And it's just before the Chesia part of the letter. It says, "We believe the applicant has demonstrated that the proposed drain can convey a 10-year storm event." They are signing off on the roadway. They are signing off on the roadway with that statement. Then we talk about Chesia, and they make comments about the Chesia stuff, and then they make comments on the lots. That's how this letter is divided. It is not the clearest thing in the world. And I asked them to please bold that statement, and nobody did it, but that's their letter and nobody changed it. They've signed off on the main drain extension with that line, which is just sitting there all by itself.
Okay, so where is it again?
It's on page 2, roughly the middle of the page. It's just before they start to talk about their review of the Chesia Consulting Services correspondence. This particular document was not organized nicely so that it really made it easy for us.
Just before what?
Just before the Chesia, it says, there's a line that says review of Chesia Consulting Services correspondence. And so it begins to talk about Chesia stuff there. Just above that, it says, it's in the November 25th, Weston and Sampson letter.
Yeah.
It's not the 11-13 letter.
Because they had questions. Now that this is the summary, and it's organized according to our motion, but you'd never know it because they don't say 1, 2, 3, 4, which is. But it's organized that way, even though they don't tell us that.
Yeah, but it was after the big panel, the meeting without our engineer present.
Well,
Excuse me, who's speaking now?
We believe.
Sorry.
One second.
He's a gentleman from Chapin Road, and we're not taking public comment. So actually, you had a question. Let you speak.
Well, when was the public hearing closed?
July 28th,
Yeah, we sent it to the council.
July 28th.
So a lot of information has happened since then. And I would just make a plea to the chair to allow spokesperson from the neighbors to respond to all these comments, just one person to respond. I think that's, the chair has the right, the authority to do that. Is that correct?
Sure.
So I would ask the chair to allow one person to speak on behalf of the neighbors to respond to all the comments that have been made. I think that's the
Does the
only fair
committee,
thing to
does
do.
the committee, would the committee like to do that?
I mean, the only thing new really is that.
No, there's a question. There is a question. She asked the question whether the committee would allow somebody to speak. So the answer is yes or no.
Yes.
I would,
Okay,
Absolutely.
okay, so, but we're in the middle of a discussion.
At one point.
This is not really a good time to do
At
that.
one point, when you think it's, when the counselors have spoken.
Sure.
Yeah.
But we're not gonna get into a back and forth. We're
No,
gonna
I'm
get
not,
into- Okay.
Well, that's again, a decision that you would make,
Okay,
but just, the question is whether somebody should be allowed to speak.
all right. So I just wanted to make it clear with the point that you were raising about the roadway has been signed off on. And it was, as I said, it's a poorly organized piece of information based on what our motion was, but it's there.
Yeah, the only comment I would make to that is that I'm very concerned that it was a private meeting with the third party consultant, not with us. Just because.
That's how land use does it. Land use, I was on land use for 10 years. And when you have a big project, you hire a consultant paid for by the petitioner. And they read through all the materials, come up with recommendations and questions. They meet with petitioner. And they go over things, they ask their questions. And then they go back and they answer the questions, the petitioner answers, because this is how it's done, a peer review. You don't typically invite all the people who are against the project to come to the meeting between the petitioner and the consultant.
I'm talking about us being in the room.
No, but the land use committee's never in the room when the peer review is done, or I never was in the room when the land use peer review is done. It's all done by the professionals and with the petitioner.
I thought it was gonna be both sides of the professionals. I thought that was the.
No, because they're not the people who've put the petition forward. They're not the people paying for the petition.
That's why we were confused, because there were these two conflicting engineering.
There will
reports.
always be conflicting reports. The neighbors pay for engineering, they pay for the attorneys. Go ahead.
This might help. Frank, can you clarify what the meeting with Weston and Sampson and Everett Brooks was regarding? I believe it was just to answer outstanding questions on their plan.
It was to answer outstanding questions as far as the tributary area for drainage and that sort of thing, and to try to clarify the memo so that it would be bolded and all that sort of thing. Unfortunately, it didn't get bolded. It wasn't clear by the motions. It was just trying to clarify what their peer review was, and they needed additional information from Everett and Brooks Company to complete their peer review. It wasn't to discuss, it wasn't to discuss the lots or anything like that.
I have some hands on the screen, so we'll go to Councilor Block first. I think you're first.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I was very taken with the questions that Councillor Kalis was raising about the 10-year storm. The 10-year storm benchmark, and that this is adjusted for additional, based on additional data. I mean, I think we're all cognizant of storms being more intense, and I'd be interested in how this 10-year storm is measured and what the changes have been. Is it an accelerating change? Is it sort of gradual change? And along those lines, I'm interested in how sensitive that number is. By that I mean, what if you use a 20-year storm data? Does this system still work? Is it still in compliance? What's the tipping point? Do you need a 100-year storm for this not to be not to work properly? Just get it. I mean, is it 11 years? Is it right on the margin and just making it? Or is there a lot of cushion, if you will, for storms to get worse? I'd be very interested in that kind of information. And that's, I mean, this is a very complicated topic. I appreciate the committee's work on all of this, sparing the rest of the members of the city council this level of detail, but it's become sufficiently controversial that somebody like me, who's not on this committee and really is not used to reading reports at this level of detail, I've had to become at least a little educated in the topic. So maybe if somebody could get back with this 10-year storm information, I'd be very interested. Thank you.
Could we do
You
a
wanna
quick
talk-
response? Because I think it's important to know that even if we size this main drain up, it's not gonna work with the rest of our system. Remember, similar to our culvert, if
When those
we,
connect.
when those connect, we create an issue where it connects if the whole system isn't upsized.
You can't put a bigger pipe into it.
It's a smaller pipe.
So-
And that's,
Is our city, as well as all the other cities around us, are all planned on the 10-year storm? Okay.
For roadways,
For roadways?
yes. For catch basins, for drain mains are designed for a 10-year storm. And that has to do with, it's the standard so that things don't get overly expensive. If you design for larger storms, it's, the pipes need to take more water. You need to increase the size of the pipes, you need to install more catch basins. The system would need to be a lot more robust and the costs would go up significantly. So it's kind of like, it's a balance between cost and a system that is adequate for a storm that we know we're gonna get frequently, but not that frequently.
Okay. So 10 years, what you plan all of the roadways in Newton for?
That
Is
is
that
correct.
right?
That is correct. The catch basins, the pipes, they are all designed for a 10-year storm.
Councilor Block, does that help you?
No, it doesn't. I understand that that's the standard. What I'm getting at, I suppose, is how adequate is that standard? How concerned should we be? This is maybe just a little example of are we missing the bigger picture here? That this 10-year storm metric is not really what we may need to spend the money. Again, we got to know what the cost benefit is, what the risks are, what the damage to property will be, what the cost would be to increase the capacity of our system. And I just want to know, how close are we to this edge? How adequate is this 10-year standard in this particular case, and I guess by implication for our city? So I still, I mean, I obviously the standard is the standard, and the system is built the way it's built. But I still think those metrics should be of interest to all of us.
Can I
Councilor Block, that's an
respond?
very interesting question.
Because
Commissioner-
this will help.
Yes.
We are doing a stormwater infrastructure improvement assessment. We have just started it. It will give us a 20-year capital plan, prioritize projects, and look at our entire system for improvements. It will take about a year to complete.
So might it consider whether we're planning for the right,
It will consider all of this,
okay,
climate, sustainability, all of that cost.
So Council Block, I think stay tuned, I guess, is the answer to your question, because it's gonna be considered by DPW in the coming year.
We're.
That's, I didn't know that. That's great. I'm not sure that helps us today with this particular item before us. I guess there's a point at which I'm trying to sort of put the specifics of this particular project and its complexity aside for a moment. Do you, when do you stop adding to your current system because you have to redesign and upgrade the whole system?
So Councilor Block, were you here at the beginning of the meeting, so when we were talking about the culverts in Bullo's Pond?
I did tune in, but I was not paying a lot of attention to that discussion. One was quite enough for me, Counselor, but I appreciate the question.
So Commissioner Sullivan, could you just, and whoever wants to, just talk about the small pipe, the big pipe issue?
So in order to address the overtopping from the dam and to mitigate that flooding, we went through what we could potentially do to address that. It impacted over 400 properties. The high school, 2 elementary schools, the Mass Pike, the railway system, and then we would need to work with Watertown to upsize their system. We're talking a 20 by 12-foot culvert.
So they were talking
Through
about,
2.5 miles.
because the culvert is now, is it 10 feet?
10 feet right now.
To accommodate, and you can't put a 10-foot, 20-foot culvert into a 10-foot pipe. So they have to increase the size of the culvert. So they've been looking at this issue in regard to the flooding of Bullo's Pond, and it was hundreds of millions of dollars project to resize all the pipes to make it all work. So I guess it's just.
Including takings.
So it's, well, I guess that what Counselor Danberg keeps talking about is that you can't feed a large pipe into a small pipe, it doesn't work. So it would have to mean changing a whole bunch of our system, not just one main drain.
Well, I follow that. I understand that. A lot of people have said that climate change is going to be very expensive.
Yes.
This may be our bill. And the sooner, I mean, if it is, the sooner we acknowledge that, the better off we'll be and the smarter we can be about where to spend money and how much we need to raise in order to do that. That's, you know, I grant you this is expensive. I mean, I'm not someone who can calculate that. And I was really just taken with this 10-year storm benchmark and that's the standard. I'd really like to know how that standard has changed over the last, let's say, just 10 years. How much that's changed, and how close we are to our system not being able to handle 10-year storms if that trend continues. So that's all. I'm not trying to debate the approval or disapproval of this particular item.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Block.
Can we
President.
provide some information on that,
sure.
the 10 years?
Go ahead.
Alfredo?
Yeah, so what I can say about the industry standard is that as part of the equation that is used to estimate the capacity for different storm events, they do consider the rainfall intensity. That's one of the aspects that are considered. And Cornell University, NOAA, agencies like this that specialize in hydrology, they are looking at a specific location. So this is specifically for Newton, where they have data and they update those rainfall intensities, which go into It's one of the variables that is used to determine the flows. So that is used to update the flows, because when that number increases, the flow increases, and then that will be checked. To your point, as rainfall intensities continue to increase, there is a possibility that the infrastructure size will need to increase to adjust for that, but it is being taken into account by that rainfall intensity number that is being adjusted over time.
And it also should be noted that there are other ways to mitigate stormwater
Yeah.
besides culverts.
Absolutely.
Okay, that was an interesting diversion. President Laredo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I apologize for being late online, although I was listening to the entire discussion, so I feel like I've been well informed. Let me just, I want to put this in context a little bit. You know, we've been at this project now for multiple meetings, and it kind of starts off with this. This is probably not a good site for the proposal. That's the starting point. I mean, the neighbors here live in a very high flood zone. They get flooded regularly. The proposals to add 2 houses in here as a subdivision, and if we started from scratch, I think we'd all say this is just not a good fit. Kind of end of discussion. But we have someone here who acted in good faith, who tried to buy something, paid a significant amount of money for it. Understand that we do want to work with folks who are developing in the city. We do want to be supportive of that. And so the developers come in with an array of methodologies that they believe will satisfy us. And I appreciate the effort very much. But I'm really listening to both Councilor Kalis's questions, which I thought were really good, and the one that Councilor Block just raised about the 10-year storm. And here's why I think Councilor Block's question is so relevant. In a lot of other places, if you exceed capacity in an 11-year storm, for example, okay, there's some overflow, it goes on to other properties, but it's really not going to cause a lot of issues. Here, we are really dependent on this system keeping everything in the system, because if it doesn't, we're going to cause real problems for the neighbors. And so, you know, if there's an 11, if I think the question Councilor Block raises is exactly the right one. If we really are talking, if it just passes muster at 10 years, but if it's a year 11 or year 12 or year 15 standard, I'm not comfortable with that, quite bluntly, okay? That is well within even my remaining lifetime. It is likely to be in the lifetimes of the folks owning these homes, and this would cause significant problems. If this was designed to manage a 100-year storm, for example, and I'm not saying that's the right measure, you can assess risk a little bit more here. But someone who, you know, owns a home for 35 or 40 years might face a flooding situation 3 or 4 times during the life of that. I think that's very problematic. The other thing that has struck me here that is very difficult is I'm not doubting at all the good faith and abilities of our staff. Quite the contrary. I think they're very good. Very good. But we have a situation where we have, I think, neighbors who are rightly concerned about the effect on their property. And we have seen that over and over and over again elsewhere in the city when a developer builds and causes real problems with stormwater on a neighboring lot. And all of us on this council have heard those complaints before. Even though we have now created better language here. And so, we're basically saying, go ahead and do this. Trust the internal process. It'll all be worked out in the end. And the city's not going to approve anything unless it meets our standards. And I understand that. And I understand that in the ordinary situation, but I don't view this as an ordinary situation. And so I am very uncomfortable with the idea that we would vote something knowing that there's a whole bunch of unknowns that have to be met at some later point, and all of those discussions will be out of the public eye. They will all be internal between the developer and the city folks. And the neighbors here will have known, unless I'm completely mistaken, will have zero involvement in that process. And I'm very uncomfortable with that. And I say that recognizing that this is a very unusual situation and recognizing that the developer is in a difficult position, and I recognize that. But I am not comfortable at this point moving forward with this project. Thank you.
Rachel, may I just ask you, is this a new standard that we're setting in Newton? That the 10-year storm is no longer the standard that we.
Not at all, Chair Albright, okay? The 10-year standard might be fine on an ordinary run-of-the-mill roadway, but this is not an ordinary run-of-the-mill roadway. This is an area that is prone to flooding on a regular basis. We know that. And I don't think 10 years for this project is sufficient. Might be elsewhere in the city, but not for this project.
Any part of the city where there's a high water table, will we change the standard?
Chair Albright, in fairness, I appreciate that you support the project. You have every.
I'm asking you the question. I'm not.
My question is, it's not just a high water table. We have heard over and over and over again that this is an especially high water table at this situation. Okay. And we're being asked to approve a main drain for a 10-year storm. I'm not aware of other situations where we've been asked to approve that where we are in a high flood area. Are you?
Well, we don't usually get asked to approve. We don't get asked to approve lots, and that's something that goes to the departments. We don't get asked to that ever. This is about a main drain extension.
Chair Albright, we usually, Chair Albright, that's the whole problem here, okay? That's the whole problem. We are trying to fix something that probably should not be built on in the first place. That's our underlying issue here. And we're going through all sorts of permutations and arguments and other things to allow it. And I appreciate that. I think that's a valiant effort, but I'm not comfortable with a 10-year standard if I don't know what that is. I'm just not. And frankly, I think in this situation, it's not unreasonable to have the calculations done before us in public. We can all view them. And if the standards are all met, and if our engineers say it all works, then I'm comfortable with it. But in the public eye, not behind closed doors.
Councilor Leary.
Councilor Laredo, these standards have to be met, or they can't get built. What's before us is the approval of a main drain extension. In my mind, if there was a bad rainstorm without any stormwater infrastructure, it would certainly be much worse rather than, there's no stormwater infrastructure on most of that street. And these are also legally approved lots that our city engineer reviewed, and it was approved to be buildable based on having this stormwater extension put in. And that my understanding is if there's anything that can't be infiltrated on site under our strict 2022 stormwater ordinance, that it would go into this storm drain. So I think that this would actually be a big improvement immediately for the neighbors, and it would offer protection over heavy rain, whether or not those properties get built. So I don't think it's right for us to put on this developer or this applicant, all of a sudden we're gonna say nothing can get built, we're too concerned, everything has risk. We can't That's true. Driving your car down the road is a risk. I just think this is incredibly unfair, and not only that, I think it puts the city, I think we're gonna get a lawsuit out of it. Because these are legally approved lots.
Next to your house, would you be okay with it?
Yes, yes, I would. I would feel much better having a main drain in there. Absolutely.
Okay, Councilor Greenberg.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Allison, Council Leary made most of the comments that I wanted to make. I just see this, your vote on this project is for the main drain. It's not for homes being built on the property. It's to improve the stormwater situation on Chapin Road. I think this has been shown that it will improve the stormwater situation for the folks who live there. So I think that's what I'm focusing on, and that's what I'm happy to vote on. Thank you.
Okay. Can I call on you, Councilor Danbury?
Okay.
Councilor Danbury.
Thank you. The current circumstances, Counselor, President Laredo, on that street are bordering on unlivable when there was a heavy rainstorm. The ponding is huge on that street, and it's because there isn't an adequate drain to take care of the water that today we have on that street. The building of what we are voting on today is not the building of the houses. They will have to meet their own standard or not at some time in the future. And since 2022, when we changed the standard for the requirements for stormwater on lots that are being built, we have a much higher standard than in the rest of the state. We have one of the strongest stormwater standards in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Right now, that if we say no to this project, we leave these people on the street with the ponding that they now have. What we are trying to do is to improve their lives, whether or not these houses are ever built. By putting this drain in that will drain the street, it will add 2 catch basins, and it will make the street a much more livable condition than it is now. We are either going to get this drain. The street should have had a drain in it. It should have had this drain, but it doesn't. And the city is not going to step up to the plate and put a drain in this system, in this street, before hundreds of other things are done that we all know, sitting in this room, need to be done before this street is given a drain. We have the opportunity to get this, to improve the conditions on this street without talking about building anything at all. They will have to meet their own standard. Let's give this street and the people that live on it an opportunity to improve their street and their lives by putting in the drain. We are not voting on the houses, President Laredo. We're voting on putting a drain that should be already in existence in that street, but isn't in the street.
Yeah. Councilor Kalis and then Councilor Kelly.
So as Counselor Danbury was speaking, it just seemed logical maybe to entertain Counselor Lobovitz's question and maybe to hear from the community.
My point was about that, right? Before we vote, which I hope we do tonight, I'd like to hear what Betsy Harper wanted to present to us at the very beginning of it. Oh, no, you don't want to. And what the neighbors think about, or if they designate one person to respond to this. And I thank Councilor Lobovitz for making the recommendation, because we can't reopen the public hearing in time for all of this. And before they do that, I might be wrong in my recollection. I thought that the Chessie report or an addenda to the Chessie report said that this main drain would not solve all the drainage problems of the street. So I would like somebody, whether it's Mr. Nichols or somebody to, maybe I'm remembering that incorrectly, because I've been using this idea of public benefit and what Counselor Leary and Counselor Danberg keep saying is that neighbors are gonna be so benefited by this, and it was not my understanding that was necessarily gonna happen, so that's part of what I was hoping for clarity from the peer reviewer, so.
Mr. Nichols, can you speak to that by any
And the
chance?
neighbors too.
Yes, I believe I can. The way it will help the street, as I mentioned, there's only 2 catch basins on this street, down close to Pleasant Street. It's in front of number 17. So all the runoff that hits that street from the dead end section all the way down, travels in the gutters and goes to those 2 catch basins. If the catch basins are partially clogged or covered with leaves, as they are now, the water will pond at that low point. By adding 2 additional catch basins upstream of that low point, a portion of that runoff that was going to go down the gutter to the original 2 catch basins will now be intercepted, put into the new drain main extension, and reduce the ponding at the current location of the catch basin, which will make it safer for drivers. And as we know, ponding is a big issue if you're trying to drive through it.
I believe one of the positives that was mentioned as a result of installing this great main drain extension and allowing the neighbors to tie into it was about flooding in their basements and wet basements, and that would be alleviated by this. And that's the part that I thought the Chesapeake Reporter, later people said not true or not necessarily true. It's not just about the drainage on the street. It was about again, it's a high water table issue too, and it's about the wet basements, and that this was not gonna be an answer to that, and they were still gonna need.
They would
their
need to
sump pump.
connect to the.
And
yes,
whether
if
they
want
did
to
or not.
relocate Their basements.
Right, so it's
they
not
connect to the-
automatically an asset to the neighbors. Automatically, I think.
The
But I'll
drain
let
would
other
take
people
care of the
speak to it.
street. The laterals would take. care
And
of
nobody's
the-
forcing a neighbor to connect to it.
That's right. Nobody's
If
forcing.
they want their sump pumps, they have their sump pumps.
The street will be improved just by putting in the drain.
Right, it's only the street that's being improved.
That's right.
Not the wet
And
basement.
neighbors have options, but
That's
it's
right.
not required.
If they
and
want to take care of
not
their basements
necessary.
or improve their basements, they need to spend money and connect to the laterals that are there. They don't need to do that.
Let's see. Did you want to make any comments before I ask?
I think there's been a rich discussion. A lot of what I was gonna say has been said, but I do, hope that we understand that we are putting in potentially a, stormwater drain that will benefit not just the current, owners of properties, but future generations. Because this is something that, is necessary if somebody's going to wanna, make a major renovation on their property or add an ADU. Enhancing the value of the usability of their property, will definitely be enhanced by having an option to tap into the stormwater drain. So there's really no negative, to the neighbors. There's really only a potential upside, and I understand that there's a cost to it. I've offered to contribute $5,000 to the cost for anybody who does connect. And certain neighbors have talked about the fact that they've already spent a lot of money in solutions that have not worked and that have required maintenance and further solutions that require additional money. So this is a way to provide a robust, permanent solution. And if current occupants, if current neighbors, residents don't have the money to do that, they really will increase their value of their property by having future potential owners being able to connect into a storm.
I think Mr. Daglian's requirement that you add stubs for all the neighbors falls into the category of no good deed goes unpunished. So this might be the time when we have, is it Mr. Goodman? Are you going to speak on behalf of the neighbors or somebody
Who's
else?
gonna represent all of you?
I'm willing to, if others wanna add to it. Thank you. There's so much to say here, but I guess just to sort of frame this, we're talking about taking a bowl and turning it into a dome. creating a new watershed. We're talking about a water table that we're told is 23 inches below surface. I don't know if the city validated that. If they're wrong by 5 inches, that's a big problem. You know, the pits were dug during the dry months of a drought year. So 23 inches, if that's accurate, and I'm guessing no one erred in our favor. If that's accurate, it's probably gonna change when we have a wet season. So I mean, that's just to frame it out. There are a couple of factual misunderstandings here. I mean, I think it's interesting that we have several counselors telling me what's good for me, and that I'm too naive to really understand. This is really good for you. You just, you know, you're better off. Not one resident on Chapin Road or Stafford Road has agreed with that. I find that really interesting. It makes me wonder why counselors are telling me that it's better for me. And for the record, and I'm not an engineer, I understand gravity a little bit. There's no pooling on the end of the street where the subdivision is. All the pooling is around the catch basins on the other end of the street. The only water that's going to be flowing towards Chapin Road from the subdivision is from the access road that's put there.
Wait, so Counselor Kelly, you said that it goes. Does it not go downhill towards these lots?
If I may, it goes down. We are abutters, direct abutters, and the next house, 55, is next to it. We live there for 37 years now. I have seen the entire lot flood. It's floods the lot. So I don't understand how are they going to be the driveway. And I've seen the proposed thing where they're going to build the houses.
Yeah. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we hear your point, but we just want to.
But that's the bowl that's going to be turned into a dome. Once it becomes a dome, you create a new watershed. This entire conversation, the whole thing is about drainage. The only question is, will this development flood our neighborhood? And no one has answered that because no one's done the analysis. I believe, I may be wrong, I believe Weston and Sampson was provided 100 pages of graphs and charts and numbers, and they concluded that there wasn't sufficient information to do a drainage analysis. And I get it. Why would you do it now? It's not, you know, no one's building. You do that when you get the building permit phase. That makes no sense because this is a unique piece of property. And the water table's maybe 23 inches below surface. In any of them, this whole issue is about the drainage analysis, and nobody has done it. So I don't know why people are telling me that this main drain is going to be the best thing that's ever happened to me. And by the way, we got 2 independent estimates. The low end was $22,000.
Estimates on what?
On connecting our sump pumps to the main drain stubs. $22,000, that was the low end. I don't know when it was the last time you had a contractor come in on budget or on estimate, but it's pretty rare. So we're really talking about, and then the high end of the range was $28,000. And I think these people wanted to get my business. So $22,000 to $28,000, it's a privilege that I get to spend that, or most of it, to solve a problem that I don't have. I don't get water in my basement because I have a system that works. I think most people on my street do have a system that works. The only problem is going to be caused by new water. And that new water comes from this new watershed that no one's analyzed from an engineering perspective. And I'm a little concerned about even this notion that we can wait until the building permit phase, because what I've seen is there have been five waivers just on the access road alone. And then there's another potential waiver on actually having the access road put water into the main drain. Right, so if waivers are a way around things, what comfort do I have that we have standards that must be met? How do I know they're not going to be waived when it's out of the public eye? And by the way, I don't think anybody has addressed to my satisfaction, and I don't really matter when it comes to this question, but is it even legal? Does it violate the stormwater handbook and the ordinance to allow that access road to put water into the main drain, into those catch basins? Because my reading of the law is that you can't waive it because the land disturbance exceeds 1 acre. If it were less than an acre, you could waive that prohibition on increasing stormwater beyond the boundaries. And I saw engineering's analysis that it's less than an acre because they didn't include the land disturbance of the public road. And I get it, there's a debate between, there's a debate as to whether or not you need to or you don't need to, but there's a debate. We shouldn't be making decisions when there's a debate. And when I read the stormwater ordinance, I don't see any exception for public road. Land disturbance is land disturbance. There's no definition. So you have to look at the common definition or the common meaning. So there are legal questions here. There are factual misunderstandings. And there's no drainage analysis. And I understand why there hasn't been, but that's what this whole thing is about. If someone could tell me with certainty, with real certainty, that this development would not flood the street in my basement, fine. But no one's been able to tell me that.
Thank you for that. So I have some questions from Mr. Daglian based on some of the statements, or for you, I don't know who. I'm not sure what all the waivers were. Could that be explained?
Talking about when they did the subdivisions, they had waivers were related to.
Speak so they can hear you
The
too.
width of if someone could pull up the waivers for the subdivision, when they first did that, it had to do with, there were 5 of them, but they weren't really directly pertinent to this project, but I think they narrowed the driveway.
Sidewalks,
Sidewalk.
narrow the driveways, no turnaround.
Right,
Yeah.
because of it's a dead end road and it's going, so they weren't really directly applicable to the stormwater issue.
They're waivers.
They're public safety issues
No,
because
you
you have a
can't waive the
non-conforming
stormwater
narrow dead end
waivers.
lane.
You can't waive those.
Okay. Then why are they?
Like,
We're gonna not have a back and forth.
Yeah, okay.
But that was the agreement. There's no back and forth.
Right,
I think
okay.
I'm
Okay.
very glad that you had the opportunity
Yeah,
to say
thank
all
you,
that.
thank you.
I feel like we've become friends. I don't know. I feel like I've gotten to know you.
You're sick of me, I get it.
No,
Most of my friends.
I'm taking you on for a drink. Come on, let's go.
Counselor, can we give John the opportunity to speak about the waiver?
Yes, please.
Yeah, the waivers that were applied were to the border survey rules and regulations. Had nothing to do with stormwater. It was all for design of the roadway, not having to build a cul-de-sac, which meant more pavement if they had to do that. They asked for a reduction of the width of the roadway from 29 feet to 18 feet. So they reduced the impervious surface. So everything that they asked for was for rules and regulations pertaining to the roadway design and construction. It has nothing to do with the drainage system, and the total disturbance for this whole project would be 3/4 of an acre. The 2 lots and the roadway, the extended roadway extension of Chapin Road.
So the
And-
3/4 of an acre includes
I thought it was an acre.
the roadway.
The whole subdivision is a 3-lot subdivision. It's an acre. But the existing house up on Homer Street is not going to be disturbed. It's
Right.
just the 2 lots and the roadway extension. That entire thing comes out to 3/4 of an acre. No one has applied for a waiver for that. No one had asked for a waiver for that. And I don't think we would ever grant a waiver.
Okay, and the issue of this keeps coming up, the handbook. I think you said the handbook doesn't apply. The law department has said the handbook doesn't apply, and Weston and Sampson wrote in their letter that the handbook doesn't apply. So does the
And
handbook apply?
Our standards are stricter than the handbook. There are things in the handbook that we abide by, like drawdown time, total suspended solids, phosphorus control. Those things that are in the handbook are also in our requirements, and our requirements are more stringent than the handbook.
Okay, and the issue of the legality of allowing the water to go into the main drain.
That was brought up at the Board of Survey. And the applicant soil evaluated, determined the groundwater elevation. They told us we can't control the runoff for the proposed roadway extension on site. We need a drain man extension. Can we get it? We said you have to go before the public facilities, and that's if the Board of Survey allows you, approves the plan with that condition, which they did. And that's why they're here tonight.
Okay, I think I got all of them. There was one that I started to write, a debate. There was a debate. What was the debate?
That's the debate. I'm not sure I agree with that.
The debate was about what? Whether,
It was about whether you can waive the prohibition on
oh, the
increasing
main,
stormwater.
letting the water
runoff.
go
Yeah,
into the.
Yeah,
So that's in our ordinances, is it not, that you can allow, in certain circumstances, the water to go into the city's stormwater system?
So Paula, it's always been that you infiltrate to the maximum practical extent. The two lots will be infiltrated on site. Everett Brooks proved that in their tabletop exercise. The roof runoff will be collected on site and infiltrated on site. The runoff from the driveways will connect to the roadway. That will be connected to the drain man extension, but there will be a proprietary system that will take care of the phosphorus and the TSS reduction, total suspended solids.
All right, thank you for all of that.
So different engineers interpret the same rules differently, and different lawyers interpret the same law differently, and that's one of the things that's been sticking.
So
for
we
members of the committee.
we are
There's our own
being,
judgment, right?
we are being advised by our engineering, our city engineer, and John, I'm sorry, I don't know your title. Associate city engineer are advising us, and I don't know, should I say this? So I've been on the council for 22 years, and I've heard a lot of complaints from neighbors, telling us about how bad everything's gonna be when this project, whatever the project is done. But never comes to pass. It never comes to pass. I mean, the traffic is gonna kill us, the schools are gonna be overcrowded. I can't begin to tell you how many things the neighbors have saying about these projects that come before us. So I have learned to count on the professionals that advise me, and I trust them. And I trust them that they won't approve these house lots to be built unless they meet our strict stormwater ordinance. So now you know where I stand on that particular issue.
I agree with you on that. Yeah, trust the experts to some degree.
Chair Albright, had you heard at some point?
Let me just see, Councilor Greenberg, do you have your hand up again?
Yes, she spoke.
So she's done. Councilor
Oh,
Block.
sorry, I'm done.
Okay, Councilor Block, do you have your hand up again, or is it the
Yes.
same?
Yes, I do.
Please go ahead.
It's partly procedural. I'm not sure how to categorize this, but it seems like there are at least two maybe mutually exclusive ways that people are talking about this item. One is that that Councillor Danberg and Councillor Leary have focused on, which is that this stormwater drain extension will be a benefit for the neighbors, which they can hook up to or not, but they're certainly no worse off than they are. And then there's the proposal to build two houses on the adjacent property that would become buildable with this stormwater drainage extension. And I understand maybe one instinct is what's before us. What's just before it has nothing to do with the development of this property, but it just has to do with the stormwater extension. But this isn't a land use item. If this were a land use item, it would be for a committee that I serve on. It's not. So what is it? And the only way I think about this is a legislative item. This is something which we as legislators can take anything into account. And basically, is this in the public interest? And however each individual counselor defines that. And that distinction, just keeps coming back to me. For those who just look at this as a public facility, literally, that we are approving, it's a very narrow and probably fairly simple matter. But if you look at it, look at the broader implications, that's where it gets more complicated. And as somebody who would end up voting on this matter in the full city council, I'm looking at this in the larger context, and that I think it's appropriate for those who want to look at it in a larger context to do it that way. So that's just my sort of, I don't know, procedural, or maybe it's philosophical comment on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, President Loredo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So first of all, I think Councilor Block stated it very well. We are not acting in a quasi-judicial capacity here. We're acting as a legislative body, and there's a real distinction. And I too look at this from broader implication. Number two, I guess it's always bothered me when we say it's not going to be harmful to neighbors, but then the very neighbors who are or it's going to be beneficial to the neighbors, and they should want it, but the very neighbors who are being asked are saying no, we don't. So I guess philosophically, I try to have a lot of respect for our constituents. And Chair Albright, I too have been on this council for a long time, and I agree with you that certainly at times fears are overblown, terrible consequences that immediate abutters talk about don't take place. And I have repeatedly said, and I stand by this in my land use hat, that these are not plebiscites. We don't take a poll of the neighbors and decide whether we're going to do something or not. At the same time, however, we don't disregard their concerns. We have respect for their concerns. And there have been projects, maybe you and I differ on this, where we have had complaints or warnings from neighbors about something, and some of those that have come to pass. So I don't like generally telling neighbors what is good for them. We are not going to let neighbors, nor should we let neighbors ever dictate control over a project. That's our job, not their job. But I do think it's important to take their concerns into account. And I go back to what Councilor Block said. I think it's quite appropriate for us to take a holistic view here and not just a narrow one. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Lucas.
Oh, thank you, Chair. I have been following this particular petition for a while now, and I think this is the first time I've actually attended a meeting live. Usually I just watch the recordings of these meetings, so this is really impressive. Well, you brought the desserts and the cookies. So it's good to see everyone, of course. But when this petition was actually before the full council on July 28th, one of the things that I said in the chamber was that I would hope everyone on the council and I would hope everyone on the committee has done a site visit to Chapin Road in these vacant lots. And I did a site visit, 2 site visits actually. And I think it was maybe within a minute of doing the site visit and walking the site that I knew something was wrong. And I think the reports are the water table was 22, 23 inches beneath the surface. That is clearly wrong, because when I first stepped foot on there, I could tell that the water was much, much higher. And that goes into what Mr. Goodman was saying earlier. One of the things I ask is, has there ever been a home or homes in this location. And to the best of my knowledge, there hasn't been. There's a reason for that. It's a swamp. That's what this is. It's a swamp. The water's gonna have to go somewhere. It's gonna be displaced. And it's gonna go into these neighbors' basements. That's what's gonna happen. I don't know who said it earlier, but someone said that this is a gift for them. This is not a gift. This is going to be a nuisance, a very costly nuisance for these neighbors. And I don't see why, I might be in the minority. I don't know why this particular committee has not rejected this petition outright months ago. Because we are putting them through a nightmare right now. They have spent thousands and thousands of dollars on a lawyer, on an engineer. They're in City Hall right now. I can imagine they don't want to be here. They want to be home. They want to be enjoying their lives. And we are continuing this process. And I think it's time that we do take a vote and put an end to this. And I know how I'm going to vote, but it's not my vote tonight. That's all I have, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Are we done? Yes,
I'll make a motion.
okay,
I move that we do not approve.
okay,
Move to deny.
okay. Is there any further discussion?
I'll just say that I too, when we're talking about the dam, I'm not a dam expert, I'm not a stormwater engineer, I'm not a lawyer, so like you, I do listen to the advice of people who know better than me, and I did meet with Andrew Lee about this, who, though he seemed to be in favor of approving it, as Councillor Block and President Laredo pointed out, reminded me, I met with Councillor Bixby and Andrew Lee, that we have a wide range of discretion on this. And as you even advised me over the weekend, we are here to use our best judgment, and we've all been inundated with hundreds of pages of reports and numbers. And I think that's how we're gonna have to vote it tonight. And I do listen to Andrew Lee when he says, you have the right to make your best decision on this. And that's how I'm gonna vote tonight too.
Okay, anybody else?
I'll just say, when this first came before me, I was very concerned about it and suspicious about it, and I was concerned, obviously. But, after going through getting through all the information of the details, I came to a different decision, and it's based on, professionals, their opinions with engineering and all the facts, and not my personal opinion. So I just want to be clear on that. That's how I came to my decision, based on the best practices, the facts, and the advice and the discussion with experts.
That's how we can hear the same information and come to different conclusions.
Councilor Dan,
Ask an advice from a doctor, 3 others will give you different advice, right?
Councilor Danbert?
Yeah, I had a very similar trail. When I first looked at this, I thought that this is not gonna work. I have had a long history with problems on this road. My own children have complained to me about the road, this road. This was 20 years ago. My concern is to do what I feel are in the best, is in the best interest of the neighborhood. And not a potential development that might come in down the road. And I feel that the decision that we have to make tonight, which is on the extension of the drain, is an improvement to the neighborhood. It will catch the water going down the hill, so that a good amount of the water that is now pooling at the bottom of the hill, or even creeping up in a very bad rainstorm, will go into the drain, and it will improve the road. So I have come to the decision, listen to everything. I've gone over everything with a fine tooth comb, and have come to the decision that, the best, road that we can take tonight is to approve the drain extension.
Okay. And I just make clear also that this is, our vote is a recommendation to this entire.
To the
city
entire-
Council.
yes.
Which could vote differently.
This,
Yeah.
this will
Nothing's
go
final
to the,
tonight.
Yeah.
this will go to the city council. The city council will listen and all 24 members will vote on it.
Counselor Getz, did you?
Yeah, the only thing I would say is that, you know, I live with the understanding that the water table is less than 2 feet from the surface. And I see this as the existing street and neighborhood are dealing with very severe water problems now. I think betterments could happen to this street. I think curbing would really add to, you know, the sod not covering the existing catch basins. But when I hear about a development like on Stafford, you know, being flooded, you know, in the sense of they've hit groundwater and they're, you know, trying to put a basement in and it's half flooded and they need to pump that out in order to continue with their construction. I feel that the build on this zone is saturated. And I'm very concerned that, you know, we need to sort of in what's happening in Ward 8 is really think about like whether there are zones that are done, you know, in terms of fully the build on these, in these areas is done, you know, and we do not need to be either promoting or supporting yet again, more build in zones that can't support it.
Can I just make a comment on that?
Okay, well.
When you're done.
Okay, I'm almost done. So I'm not supportive. I feel as if, you know, that we're hearing from the neighborhood. And I feel as if, you know, we need to respect that. And I think that if we've been given the privilege and, you know, the ability to use our best judgment, then that's where I'm gonna sit.
The comment that I wanted to make is that when that water pools, at the foot of the street where it now pools, it doesn't just go straight down, it seeps out into the neighbors' properties now. Reducing that amount of water is going to help those neighbors' properties. Just putting the drain system in will be an improvement to the amount of water that goes into the neighbors' properties.
Okay, I think we're ready to vote. So the motion is to deny, so if you say yes, you're in favor of denial. If you say no, you're not in favor of denial, or you can abstain. So all those in favor of denial. So 1, 3,
No, Mark, 2.
4. All those against denial, it's hard to say. And is that all of us?
Yep.
So there's no abstentions. Okay, I think our work here is done. And I thank you all for being here tonight.
Thank the neighbor group for showing up for months and months and months.
It's been a long haul for everybody.
Yeah, it's here.
Thank you for listening.
And this is the way, not everybody sees things in the same way. And this is part of what's good about our process.
Yeah, it's very
Recording stopped.